There's a guy by the name René Quinton.
René Quinton, French.
He did a ton of different scientific studies, two that are incredible. One of them, he took three dogs, right? He did it, in France, in the university, people were watching. He took the dogs, he bled them.
Took all the blood out.
Took all their blood out and then hooked them up and put this electrolyte, which is just seawater, put it into their bloodstream. Every single dog got up and walked off.
Then they did that same study twice, two in America, one in Spain, I think. They replicated and they had the same exact result. It was used for tuberculosis. It was used for many different...
It was considered medicine until Big Pharma took over.
It was 4 different specialties: urology, andrology, cardiology, endocrinology. Over 17 countries, 26 research and medical institutions were involved, and they gave their medical consensus on testosterone. Testosterone deficiency increases your risk of all-cause mortality. Testosterone therapy does not cause cardiovascular disease nor prostate cancer. Dr. Charles Huggin, who in the 1940s did a study on 3 patients. I'm not gonna get into the details, but basically 2 were thrown out because they didn't qualify.
One of them was castrated.
Yeah, so it was based on one patient. They were testing at the time something called acid phosphatase that is irrelevant, but when given testosterone, this acid phosphatase went up and it increased the prostate, accelerated the cancer. Based on this flawed study, it lingered till today.
What the fuck? How does that, you do a study on one guy
One
and we're
guy.
still talking about
One
it
guy
80 years later?
80 years later, it changed.
But that sounds like propaganda.
No, but here's the problem.
100%.
Here's the problem.
Okay. Guys.
Finally.
I think we canceled and rescheduled this like 4 different times.
Yeah.
3 times.
Our fault.
That's all good. Glad to finally have you guys here.
Yeah,
How long have we known each other? 2-3 years now?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah. And so you guys, when we met, I had used BPC 157. That was the extent of my peptide experience. Started working with you guys. Tried the peptide tirzepatide, which helped me get absolutely shredded about 1.5 years ago. And since then, I've been going down the peptide rabbit hole. I think it's incredibly interesting. There's peptides for almost everything. And so you guys are the guys. I mean, you guys are the most knowledgeable people I know on this topic.
Thank you.
So I want to, before we dive into all that, let's talk about who you are, your background. Let's establish some credibility here, although I think that'll come out a lot as you guys start to talk about this stuff. Where do you start pitching people on this whole peptide movement?
Well, first of all, I think, I speak for both of us that we're super grateful that, for this opportunity and obviously to hang out with you. The more time that we get, it's cooler every time. So thank you for having us. We're very appreciative. I guess to preface our conversation, the audience should know that everything that we're going to talk about here comes from not only 10 years of experience in the clinical space, right? So we've been doing this, with labs under proper management, clinical dosing, medical doctors overseeing the results. And we have 50,000 labs under a career at this point. I mean, it's actually, we're going to probably do the math for the book that we're going to publish soon. But so it's a lot of data, and doing it in ethical ways and obviously maintaining the Socratic oaths, doing no harm and wanting the best for the patient. So our opinions here, and it's just based on, some of the anecdotal evidence, because as you know, some of these things, especially in the peptide world, a lot of things are not regulated. They don't have the double-blind, placebo-controlled long-term studies. So our conversation is going to be shaped around managing patients for over 10 years. And so to go back to your question as to when do we start pitching peptides?
Sorry, I'm just how? When it's such a big space, what is the entry? How do you, people, what is a peptide, for instance?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the What Is Money show. We'll call it the Whip show today. What is a peptide?
So, we like to, for simplicity, it's kind of like biological software code is the way that I like to think about it. It's or like a GC at a construction site, or it's a communicating molecule, right? Like an instruction manual that communicates to your cells, hey, I need you to perform this function this way, in this manner, right? In science terms, is a short chain of amino acids that provides these instructions, right? And as you know, there's peptides for, God knows. I mean, there's how many peptides now? Hundreds of peptides for different functions.
So I would just simplify it. Peptides are a biological signaler. All they're doing is sending out a signal, and your body needs to render that signal, but you need the resources, right? And if your body doesn't have the resources, the proper magnesium levels, nitric oxide, and so on, then your body will not be able to perform that job at 100%.
Right.
It's like telling a general manager, telling its construction workers to build a Ritz-Carlton, but they only have rock, sand, and shovels.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not going to get a Ritz-Carlton. So before we get into peptides, I think it's important to establish key components in our nutritional lifestyle and our nutritional diet that we don't get anymore, right? Because if you go back 500 years ago, the way our lands and our crops were much more nutritionally dense than they are today. So unless you have key components inside your body, these biological signalers are not going to perform their best.
Gotcha.
Right.
So I've heard it called like a biological language. I mean, that's kind of what you're saying, right? It's a signaling system, signaling molecule.
Right, yeah.
But if you don't have the right raw materials, not going to do much.
What are you going to
good.
get?
It's like an engineer or an architect. They propose the plan, they don't do the work.
Sure.
Right. And so it's like the cells are like, okay, BPC, thank you. Yeah. You want me to rebuild the bone with what?
Yeah.
Great idea. And so it's, that's why, as Miguel said, like when people call us about peptides, we're like, hey, look, my job is to make sure as an ethical practitioner, like our job is to make sure that we maximize your ROI. Like, do you want me to sell you the peptide? I can sell you the peptide, but I want you to get results and I want you to get the outcome that you're after. And so, Miguel always says like, you can't build a wall when the building is burning, right?
Right.
If you got a ton of inflammation, if your hemoglobin A1C is over and you don't have your diet right, I mean, good luck with, doing a CJC or EPA or, one of these peptides. You're just flushing it down the toilet.
So these things are supplements. I mean, I guess there may be advanced supplements, but they're supplemental to the basics, right?
Yes.
Diet, exercise, training.
That's a good way of putting
I
it.
think we should start to first cover the basis,
Yeah.
the building blocks, so these amino acids can perform their job, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't have the building blocks, what we've noticed from anecdotal medical experience, from seeing thousands of labs and just trying to put together the lexicon of how complex this could be and how complex our systems are, right? Why does he get really good results with BPC and I don't? Or why do I get really good results with testosterone and he doesn't, right?
And that's a really important point. The cool thing about us doing this for this long and as brothers, genetically, from the same mom and same dad, is, and we've done a ton of genetic testing. Right, because what he's saying is, how come you will get a great result and your friend won't, right? So with us, we're almost identical in terms of genetics. Like a lot of geneticists have told us, hey, if I didn't know you guys, I think you guys are like a step away from being twins.
Oh, wow.
And yet we have wildly different symptoms. We react totally different to the same medication at the same dose.
Wow.
Right? Like we metabolize things differently, right? And so, and that's why it's been really exciting for us to not only take the peptide world, but also dive into the world of genetics with peptides. And that's we'll
go from the building blocks all the way to engineering peptides to your genome sequence. That's what we're doing now. Carlos and I are just interested at this point, not off the shelf peptides, but actually engineer peptides to what's going on in your genes, right?
So you curated to your genetic code.
Yeah.
But sorry, just to double click on something interesting you just said. You guys are near identical genetically.
And we
you
know
have
that
very
because
experiences of different
and
doses
you know
of
us,
things.
we have very different personalities.
We
look differently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Wonder, because a term I got from Saladino is bio-individuality.
Yes.
But I guess I just assumed that was all genetic, but it sounds like there's something deeper than that. So what, do you guys have any, hypothesis? What's going on there? If you're genetically similar, how do you still have so much bio-individuality between the two of you?
Let me answer that real quick from the most geek way possible, because the bio-individuality thing is at the core of what we do. It's on our website. Everything we do is bio-individualized. It's actually called N of 1, which nothing is cookie cutter. Everything is tailored and the analytics are followed based upon the patient's reaction. So let's go back for a second. What makes you and I different and him and I different? Right. We all have 3.2 billion pairs of nucleotide letters. In total is 6.4 billion nucleotide letters. So it's ATGC. That's the alphabet of the entire genome. Now, the way they're sequenced, you can have SNPs, meaning you have a T where there should be a G, and that's where there's genetic errors.
Right.
And that's where we're different. This is kind of like, to give you an analogy, if you can have a misspelled word instead of bake, you can have lake, you can have cake, you can have run-on sentences, you can have missing pages. This is where you get somebody that's, you know, Down syndrome versus a God-looking person, right? Yeah. So it all comes down to the gene sequencing. And unless we know exactly how your 6.4 billion nucleotide letters are aligned, it is impossible to tell you how you're going to respond to everything. And this is what we call pure genomics, the way your genetic makeup is going to react to a certain drug. And with AI, we're going to get to a point where we can sequence with a diagnostic, slap it onto a computer, see exactly how you're sequenced, and see on a sandbox how your body responds to every medication and say, hey, between these statins, this is one that's good for you. Between these peptides, these are the ones you're responsive to because of the way your genetic sequence is set. And one more thing,
they're also doing that kind of like how they do with, I'm sorry to interrupt, like kind of like antibiotics. Like there's some antibiotics that you will not respond to, or bacteria, you know, so you test it. So this is kind of the thing that we're doing. It's been done with a series of medications, but this is, you know, and I think you were going here, I apologize. Peptides, we're not there yet. Right?
Yeah, right.
So there's something called the exposome, which is the umbrella of the totality of damage we've had from our environment and biologically, from stress, nutritional deficiencies, all that. That causes wear and tear to your immune system. It's called immunosenescence. It's the expiration of your immune system. So as long as we're breathing and we're biological beings, we're having cellular turnover rate. We're losing about 2 million cells per second to have 40 trillion cells survive.
Wow.
That's that 2 million per about 50 billion a day. So as long as you're having that cell turnover rate, as your DNA replicates, there's errors in that sequence. Our machinery starts to make mistakes. And this is where the genes start to kind of move out of balance, or kind of like the boat, you know, from so many waves, now the autopilot gets a little off course, and now you keep going for 10, 20, 30 years, you're going to end up in a completely different destination.
Gotcha.
So it's sort of a moving part as well, right?
It's like the grapevine communication, right? So you got DNA, which then communicates to RNA, which is the transcriptor mechanism.
And then that goes to proteins, and that goes to
proteins
metabolites, and that goes to enzymes and so on.
So when there's a mishap in the communication, then the tissue is doing something different that it's not supposed to. You carry that over for 10 years.
Right.
This is how you get dissonance. This is how you get disease. This is how you get all
butterfly effect too, right? Like small changes in initial conditions can have really outside outcomes.
100%.
The butterfly that flaps its wings causes the hurricane.
So it's kind of like, like the whole MTHFR thing and the genetic testing, which is super important. Like, you know, now they have the methylation test. Most of us know what that is. You know, I always like to compare, like, we have a double copy of the MTHFR gene, right? Okay. That's very important to know. You know, you're talking to a guy, and, you know, Miguel was the same kid. I was prescribed 16 milligrams of Adderall a day at 16. 60 by one of the top dog psychologists in the nation, who should be in prison. I was smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. I was like completely outside of my mind, anxious. And all it was a nutrition deficiency, right? Yeah. And so you want to find this early on, because when you have MTHFR, right, which we now know, like high homocysteine is related to heart disease and neurodegenerative conditions, it's almost like having a rotor and an engine that's spinning a couple degrees off axis, right? You carry that over time, 10, 20, 30 years. Yeah. This is a disease. Oh, I didn't have a problem, and all of a sudden I have this disease. Well, you know, it's because of this dysregulation of communication, all this very complex system that works, you know, in the infinitely small.
Yes. Right? Interesting. So, okay, raw materials are the first thing we should talk about before we go anywhere else.
Please.
Okay.
And he can talk real fast if he wants about it. So as you know, we're writing a book, and one of the things that we started is the 3 silent killers. Like, what are the things that are affecting us the most? We can't start building without first. It's kind of like you can't rebuild a city that's been abandoned until you clean it up, right? And fix the roads before you go in there. So we have to first talk about the silent killers, which is the nutritional deficiencies in our soils. Everything is industrialized now, and every time you do a new round of, you know, like whenever you, how do you say it? Whenever you crop a new batch, the soil is demineralized.
Right.
So basically you would need in comparison to what is it, 1940 or something, you would need 43 bowls of spinach or 37 apples to get the same nutritional value as one.
Yeah.
Basically 50 years ago.
Yeah, I
That
think
is an actual statistic.
And this is like a super interesting question. Like we've been doing this for this has been really a heavy subject. And to go back to the original question, at what point do you start talking about peptides? It's like, look, you wanna answer the biggest question. Where's my camera? I just want to communicate this to so don't buy the trend, buy the science. Right? Don't buy the trend, buy the science. So it's like, peptides are super sexy, but it's like every time I think about peptides and when people call us, oh, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want this, it's like, for why? And in their minds, it's kind of like, I want a $5 million mansion. All of us want a $5 million mansion, but nobody wants to think about what that mansion looked like when it was just raw pipes, 2x4s, and plumbing. But if you don't have those things, you don't have a mansion, right? So you want to work, you want to do the unsexy work first. That's where we get into the raw material conversation. But then you got to like back up even more. Why? Why should I even try to do this? Why should I take this seriously? Why should I focus on my health? And the thing is, this is how kind of like every conversation in our company starts and how our book starts. It's like, look, you're fighting 3 silent enemies every single day of your life that most people will never tell you about. And you know this because you're educated. So the first is endocrine disrupting chemicals, right? These are very serious. You know this, right? Infertility, they cause all kinds of things. They drop your testosterone, complete endocrine disruptions, and these things are unavoidable, man. You're smearing them on your skin in form of soap, shampoos, deodorants, toothpaste, air freshener, this shit's everywhere, right? It's in the carpets, it's everywhere. You're eating it and drinking it.
Your clothes.
Now, science is telling us what? We're eating about a credit card's worth of plastic a month?
Yeah.
It's about
Newsflash,
0.5,
people.
which is 0.5 to 5 grams of plastic per month. Just so you have an idea in your head, a strawberry is 5 grams, 5 to 6 grams. That's how much plastic we're consuming. And in 2024, microplastics were found in every human testicle sac that was tested, and 87% of fallopian fluids, of the fluid inside the fallopian tubes of females. So this stuff is everywhere.
Yeah, this stuff is everywhere. And, newsflash, people, your body was not made to digest plastic.
Right.
Right? And look, I could already tell you're like, oh my God, it's overwhelming. Right? So
the most shocking part for me was because it accumulates in the testicles
and the brain.
for men and the brain.
Like you and I, all of us right here, we're inhaling it in microparticulates in the air conditioning vents, and it's crossing the blood-brain barrier.
All right, that's it. Podcast is canceled. Hey.
Yeah, so listen, it's crossing your blood-brain barrier, and most people at this point, they're like, okay, that's it. It's too much, right? But hey, listen, I just need you to be aware of it because it's real, and we have a solution, and we can mitigate it, right?
Yeah.
And then so it's kind of like the way that I like to think about it is like your cells, the ones that you're telling with peptides to do shit, right? Your cells are being bombarded by chemicals that they don't really know what to do with because from an evolutionary perspective, some of these chemicals, 90% of these chemicals weren't even around 40 years ago. Right? And we have this massive assault. So, our cells are engineered for resilience, and so they try to fight, but then you have a really big problem. And I always tell people who are trying to go into this journey, I'm like, listen, if you never hear from me again, if you accept what I'm about to tell you as a reality, because you're going to understand it. But this subject confuses and trumps, and it's the greatest obstacle for most people, from PhDs that we work with to bodybuilders, soccer moms, and everything in between. And it's the fact that we have lost a humongous amount of micronutrients and trace mineral elements in the soils all over planet Earth.
Right.
And if you allow me, I'll give you a tiny little story, a real story, because we've known this for years. And I remember there was a client that walked through our doors. He was over 300 pounds. He showed up early to our appointment. And he sat down and, I was starting to go into this, right? Like, hey, so when you come out, like, we're going to give you recommendations that are going to be based on this, right? Because we have to overcome these deficiencies, right? Because your body's trying to fight, but it doesn't have the resources to fight, right? Sure. Because it's not receiving them from the ground, which is how we used to get our nutrients through food. So this guy is listening to this pitch and he says, whoa, Carlos, like, hold on. Listen, let me stop you right there. Let me tell you who I am. And he literally said these words: I'm this fucking fat because I'm addicted to sugar. I need you to help me with my addiction. And I was like, thank you for your honesty, right? He said, but listen, not only do I believe in what you're saying, but let me add on to what you're saying. Let me tell you who I am. I'm a recently retired third generation industrial agricultural engineer. My grandfather was an agriculture engineer. My daddy was an agriculture engineer. I was an agriculture engineer for 45 years. I recently retired. And let me give you the reality about what you're saying. In order for you to get 100% nutrient-dense foods, you would have to move to the Amazon, find a plot that has never been touched by human irrigation runoff, okay? Knock it down, till it, seed it, plow it, do the whole thing, grow it, and you would only get 3-4 maximum growth out of it, and then you would have to find a different plot. Wow. That's the reality. So if you live in an industrialized city, as most of us do, the reality is that, and this is the fact that you have to accept, food is no longer enough. Usually what you're putting in your mouth is only feeding maybe 20-30% of your cells that are inside your body in darkness, deaf, blind, no taste buds, and they need to perform these jobs.
Even the carnivore diet, even the high meat, high fat.
I mean, listen, there's better diets than others, but the fact is that, you have absorption rates. So that's another thing that we'll get into, like protein absorption rates, right? Like this is a complicated subject. And so you can't eat enough to get the resources that your body needs on a daily basis.
Wow.
Yeah, no, on a carnivore diet, you're getting lean, clean macronutrients, but you're not getting the micronutrients, which are the oils to the system. You're thinking about gasoline. You got to think about the oil as well. And unfortunately, it's not enough, right? And any extreme diet, we're not fans of. Keto, carnivore, vegan, none of them. If you look, we had a highly diversified diet back in the days. We ate with seasons and just cycles, right? And then agricultural time came around and we started cropping stuff. So most of our diet was based on carbohydrates, right? So it's going back. That's part of what we're doing in our book, is taking people to the past.
Sure.
Right? And what were the core things we were doing in order to stay healthy and vibrant? I mean, if you think about it, we fasted on a regular basis. We didn't have food all the time. We had to hunt. You either had to build it, make it, or go get it, right? All food was completely nutritionally dense, free of toxins. So there was no chemicals, there was no pesticides. Then exercise was a natural part of our daily life. Again, you had to build it, chase it, or go get it. Our water was clean, pristine water, right? It was completely mineralized. It didn't have toxins. What else? We slept 7 to 9 hours a day. We went to bed with the moon and awakened with the sun. We had a natural alarm clock. Our iPhones were the sun and the moon, right? And photobiomodulation. Sun, there's a medical term to it called photobiomodulation. Photo as in photons, meaning packets of light, bio as in living organism, and modulation, the influence of light on our cells, right? So our bodies eat energy. Then you had, we lived in a non-toxic world. There was no artificial lighting. There wasn't any toxins or any other man-made chemicals we can't even spell. And then we were grounded all the time, right? And that's a big one we'll touch later. We were first electrical before we were anything else. And most of us are electrically deficient. We're disconnected from the earth. And that creates a host of other issues. So that's why when you talk to me about peptides, like, we got to first talk about,
hey, what about DISP? I'm like, how about getting some sunlight, getting grounded?
And we can talk about,
which is free.
We can talk about what sleep actually starts from the moment you wake up, right? And you got 1 hour. It's called the cortisol awakening response. The higher you hit the peak, the more you cause a negative feedback loop. So by the end of the day, you're exhausted and you're going to go to bed no matter what you do, short of you taking a keto cocaine or something.
I remember you sent me a reel about that from Huberman, I think.
Yes, Fran
The
Huberman.
number one biohack was to spike your morning cortisol
early,
so you get the opposite at night.
Right.
Yes, because if you wake up and you don't do it, and you try to do it, I don't know, an hour later after you wake up, you train and you do all these things. You try to, you're never going to get to that peak, and you're going against your circadian rhythm. So it completely discombobulates your entire circadian rhythm.
Gotcha.
Right.
And
So
then that's why some people become night owls.
Yeah.
So the last.
So it's okay to hit the coffee first thing then.
But then you want to use it strategically, right? Okay. Like if you wait at least an hour to, because you have to understand what wakes you up is cortisol and DHEA. Before your eyes open, what actually wakes you up is cortisol starts to raise, DHEA, and then you open your eyes and you start moving. That's why you got to get up with an intention. You got to move. And I tried the first hour. Thank God that my window, I red light on the back, and I have sun hitting me right into my face, and I try to look right into the sun because that hits something called the melanopsin retinal ganglion cells that then hit the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which that causes a cascade domino effect of things that are waking you up. So you start switching on all the day mode power and turning off the night stuff. So by getting that light, right, I brush my teeth, I go downstairs, I do a mini stretching routine with a mini breath routine as well to
with
get more
molecular hydrogen, which is another resource.
We'll get into all of that. So anyways, I'm going off subject, but it's very important that you wait about an hour if you can. And sometimes I do it because it stimulates to go to the bathroom. But if you wait long enough and you do breath work and you move your body the first 30 minutes, you will go to the bathroom. That's what I noticed. So the reason why you don't want to drink in the morning is because adenosine, which is a molecule which starts to accumulate, and that's what kind of makes you tired, and that's why you drink coffee. It blocks those receptors and you're back online, aside from stimulating your central nervous system. It's kind of like you're trying to put gas when the gas tank is already full. You want to wait about an hour, so when you sit in front of your computer or you're going to work, you drink that coffee, now you get that boom, that peak, and now you have BDNF production, right? Rather than ruining it by drinking coffee in the morning.
Is that related to, and I hope this term is correct, the melanocortin pathway?
The melanocortin pathway, yes.
Cruz talks about signaling all your hormones to fire in the right sequence.
Yes. So the last piece that I was saying about ancestral living is we lived within a tightly bonded, interconnected community, right? There was trust, there was bond, and we produced a lot of dopamine, and dopamine reduces anxiety, stress, and fear, right? Which today, there's a lot of stress and demand. And there's fear. A lot of desire. And you know me, I'm already energetic. I don't know. It's kind of born in a fucking glitchy way. So I gotta. That's why.
I'm glad he said it. I'm glad he said it.
No, the 4 meditations you did right before the podcast are helping.
I gotta always be pumping the brakes with me, right? And especially because I didn't get good sleep last night. So usually I just plow through, and it just puts me in a worse situation. The point is, because we don't have enough dopamine and we're depleted, our bodies are completely haywire. I like to say that human beings have become physically weaker, metabolically slower, and biologically softer because we're overfed, overstimulated, hypermedicated, yet malnourished, and dopamine depleted. And on top of it, spiritually bankrupt. So when you add it all up, and you call us talking about a peptide, I'm like,
whoa.
Slow the F down, man.
Dude, like, there's many steps to get there, so that, by the way.
Because we wanted you to maximize results. I can take your money and be like, I'll sell you on a bunch of stuff. But I'm like, before we talk about that, let me see. Well,
people will be like, I want the Wolverine stack, I want Terceptins, I want Muncie, I want Testosterone, and CJC, and I'm like, who the hell have you been listening to? You want me to send you an $8,000 bill, or you want me to give you a bunch of stuff for free?
Right.
That are gonna give you true longevity.
And this is just people pursuing conveniences, right? They want the magic pill, or in this case, the magic shot, whatever it is, to solve all their problems. But you guys are giving the very pragmatic advice, like, hey, start with the basic blocking and tackling before you start running, the Statue of Liberty play or whatever.
And it drives me insane, and I won't say any names. All you guys watching, you've seen them online. They give you, I'm going to give you all this free advice on sleep, and they talk nothing about photobiomodulation movement. Like they talk about nothing. They give you 3 peptides. So it's like, okay, so if I want good sleep, I need to do 3 peptides for the rest of my life. That's not longevity, man.
Right.
You're just
that's not how it works.
You're just an addict.
You're
replacing one bad choice for another.
Yes. So what is
So to go back to the original thing, so the 3 silent killers is EDCs. That's why you take it seriously, because your hormones are being disrupted. The reason what he was talking about, the pristine water and all this stuff, that's why our testosterone were great. Our testosterone levels were great, and and our hormones were great because we had non-toxic food, non-toxic environment. Then we have.
Wait, before you get, just to close that, and don't worry, we're going to give you guys solutions. Very massive ways of getting rid of this stuff. There's a new term being coined, reductase medicine. It's not about what you're putting in; it's about what you're getting out.
Oh yeah, via negativa they call it in philosophy.
Because
so
if
it's the value of fasting too.
Because if your receptors are filled with endocrine disrupting chemicals, these estrogenics are binding to the receptor, kind of like a key in a key lock, but it's not the key. It doesn't open it. It's actually going into the keyhole, but it's not opening it. So when the real thing is trying to bind, you can't.
It can't bind.
Got it.
So you have those 2 nutrient deficiencies, EDCs, and then you have the third one, which is aging. Which is, we're not getting any younger. Years are passing, right? And aging is considered a disease. And it's more problematic than smoking, alcohol, and obesity combined. right?
Yeah.
That is actually a fact.
It's actually a fact. They have a ICD code for it, right?
Diagnosis
a
code
diagnosis
R54.
Well,
So-
the lethality is 100%. That's for sure.
And it was around, we looked it up, I think it was around since 2000.
In the 90s.
No, in the 90s or something, but
90s.
doctors don't know what to do with it. Like, okay, what do I do with this diagnosis code? How do you treat aging?
Well,
it's a very complex.
And look, from an economic perspective, right?
Yeah. The transhumanists are crazy, by the way.
but
I just
listen,
don't buy into it. I don't
yeah.
think you can treat aging, but I don't think you can cure aging.
No. And that's not what we're suggesting. But here's what we are suggesting. I think we've all had the experience where you've seen a friend of yours that you haven't seen in a long time, or an acquaintance, and you're like, when you leave the meeting, you're like, holy shit, that guy looks like he's 60. What happened to him? Or the reverse.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, have you seen Jane? She looks amazing. I mean, for 50, she looks like a rock star. She looks like she's 30, right? What is that? It's a very simple economy, balance of economy, right? Like take NAD, for example. Like people are like, oh, NAD plus. It's like, look, what happens with NAD? Like when the highest peaks of NAD production come when we're really young, right? In our adolescence. That's why we have an abundance of energy when we're young, right? But what is your demand from life at that age?
And responsibility.
You have no mortgage, you have no kids, you have no payments, you have nothing. You're at home living, going to school, which is also paid for. You're probably just chasing tail and thinking about video games, right? And then as we leave the nest and we go into adulthood, what happens? That transaction flips. Now we have half the resources, right? Half the NAD, which produces ATP and all this stuff.
He's just talking about one molecule.
Yeah, just one molecule. We have half the resources, double the demand. What is your demand in adulthood?
Gotcha.
Kids, mortgage, business, mom and dad are getting sick. Oh my God. And you have less margin of error, right? So you're under pressure, low sleep, all this stuff, and you have less resources. So thinking about it from a company's perspective is if you're duplicating or quadrupling your expenses and half the revenue is coming in,
of course,
that's bankruptcy, man.
Yeah.
And so the body works the same way. It's just a lack of resources over time. And now you have to compound this effect, because we've aged forever, right? You got to compound this effect with these two, which is endocrine disrupting chemicals and nutrient deficiencies, which is a really big fucking problem. This is why we're treating, and we've had the really awful decision to make, with parents, like to put 18 and 19-year-olds on HRT because they had no hormones. This is not a genetic thing. Our genes didn't change that fast.
So these external factors are accelerating aging, basically?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we call it the accelerated rate of entropy, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Everything is reaching entropy. Everything is going to prune at one point. Yeah. But the way we age in our 20s is completely different than in our 40s, completely different in our 60s, especially once you hit your 80s. So, a shoelace has that plastic cap, so it doesn't fray. As we get older, the telomere enzymes basically shorten, and that's why you're more prone to disease and getting sick, right? Yeah. And then I was talking to him yesterday about Einstein, about the relativity theory about time, and it makes a lot of sense. So, for example, I want to use one simple measure, which I got to give Brian Johnson credit for it because he really is showing that with the basics, you can really move the needle. Like he's not doing anything. He's just a couple compounds, but mostly just natural. So he says if you drop your heart rate by he doesn't say. He showed the science. If you drop your heart rate by 5 beats before going to bed, an hour or 2 hours before, you're gonna have a phenomenal sleep. Right. But my point with that, let's say your heart rate is 50, right? We're in the 40s. That's athlete. Anything 40 to 45, you're like professional athlete, right? So
you guys are at 40 BPMs?
Yeah, I'm at 45, 48.
Yeah. Wow.
Low 40s. Yeah.
So we'll talk about training the musculoskeletal system, but also your cardiovascular system. Nobody really thinks about the cardiovascular system. And you get that one strong, you're going to be actually stronger when you're lifting weights.
Yeah, sure.
So if you're at 55 beats per minute and you drop into 50 beats per minute, well, 5 times 60 minutes times 24 hours times 365 days, that's 2,680,000 beats. Not much. Yeah. Multiply by 10, 26 million. Multiply by 20. Now you got 50. Imagine you drop by 10 rates. Now you got 100 million beats.
more.
Just mathematically speaking.
This is adding to your life.
If you reduce the amount of pulses you're having, because you're pulsing in 1 minute, if you have less beats, it means you're moving the same amount of blood with less pulses because you got a stronger heart. So just from a mathematical perspective, if you're beating faster, you're accelerating that rate of entropy, right?
Yeah.
So time is really relative. We have a chronological age, right? You're 67, I'm 40, he's 45. He didn't catch it.
Why am I 67?
Why am I 67? He looks great. What do you mean? He looks like
We
he's
got to take
22.
care. We'll talk about Acorn to regenerate your pretty face. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. But the point is, there's that rate, right? So one of the biggest factors that affects that rate is also your stem cell production, which we're going to talk about a way to actually stimulate 46% more stem cells into circulation by working out your bones, which nobody talks about that. And your bones are actually metabolic. So when you're born, you have one stem cell for every 10,000. By the time you're a teenager, 1 in 100,000. By the time you're 30, 1 in 250,000. By the time you're 50, 1 in 400,000. By the time you're 80, 1 in 2 million. So this is not a linear rate. This is an exponential. And that's your stem cells, stem cells are your recovery mechanism. That's what you got to think. No stem cells, you don't recover.
Yeah, period.
Right? So there's many other things which we can touch, but it's just so you get an idea. If you're smoking, if you're partying, and you're still stuck in your 20s and you're in your 40s or 50s, you're accelerating that rate. So it's how do we slow it down so we can shield ourselves?
And so going back to the original question, it's like somebody calls us and it's like we can't help ourselves, like we know all of these variables because we've seen so many people cross through our doors, thousands of people, from
And trial and error.
different ages, like backgrounds, different diets, lifestyle, stress management level, like all of these different variables, right? And so what we've tried to do is come up with a system and sort of like a scientific method. Like we wanted to come up with replicable results. Hey, if I do these things, my chances of these averages are here, right? And so, and again, we're very, the thing that we've learned, diving deep into genetics is that we are truly, every single person is truly unique, and the boy knows his numbers. So we'll talk about like when you think about peptides, the combinations, the languages, and all that stuff, how that matches.
You guys,
with your
we're going to
genetics.
see. We'll talk about it. We're going to give you many ways how to do this.
How that has to do with your genetics, but the point is, we wanted to do as many things that we can do that would be replicable for as many people as possible. So we know 9 out of 10 people, man. We remove this, we add this to the body, we're going to get an effect. We're going to get certain lines turned on that we need on in order so that now when I bring in your peptide, now I can have almost like a predictable outcome because our job ethically is, hey man, I want to make sure that you get really good results. Like consider me your financial manager. Like I want to maximize your return, right? So if you tell me, hey, I bought an apartment in South Beach for passive income, I'll be like, great. Oh yeah, but you know what? Every weekend I've been going over there and pissing on the countertops, defecating in the kitchen, and throwing acid on the walls. It's like, dude, like you first of all, you're disgusting. Secondly, you're doing something on purpose that's like taking you away from the goal, right?
Yeah.
So we have to manage these things, right? So I like that when people come through our doors, we push them back and be like, look, this is not an adult candy shop.
Sure. So what
You can have all this stuff, but can we talk about longevity first?
Yeah, hit me. So I'm the guy that walks through, I'm 300 pounds, addicted to sugar. I want help. Like, what's the path?
The path is first, obviously we do, biochemical check just to kind of see what we're working with from a surface level, right? Because we don't need to go into the whole genetics thing to figure it out. Like
before he says that, because take him through the process, but I want to disclose something that most people will never talk to you about. And to be transparent, we discovered about a month ago about blood work that there's a difference between immunoassays and high performance liquid chromatography over double mass spectrometry, which is running sort of a 2-step verification, the same thing to make sure that the molecular structure of what you're testing or whatever hormone or vitamin actually matches. So all blood work is stemmed from immunoassays, which what that means is that it's an indirect measure of what we're looking at, no matter what biomarker you're looking at. They're using antibodies to see the response of that specific hormone, but it's an indirect measure, so it has room for error. Some could be 10% margin of error, some can be 30% margin of error, so you're not getting a direct measure. So unless you get a test, LabCorp and Quest and most of these big labs, by default, they use immunoassays because it's cheaper and faster.
Yeah, I see.
So it's much more expensive
less
to actually
accurate.
get the accurate measurements, right? So starting from the bat, wherever you go, whatever practice, ask them if they're doing immunosenescence or high performance liquid chromatography or mass spectrometry. First of all, most people don't even know what that even means.
And 99.9% are not doing that.
They're not doing it. So we're working with imperfect numbers. And on top of it, medicine is an imperfect science. Every year, we keep discovering things. Like, I think we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah. Of course.
Right? So we're working with the most imperfect science. So let's just first kind of put that as
a disclaimer.
As a disclaimer that we're doing the best we can. So when we say we're being cautious about approaching peptides, we want you to get your best ROI. Sure. And we're working against a probabilities game here. Yeah. And we don't have the technology yet to know what the hell, how are your genes sequenced? What's off? What SNPs you have? What mutations you have? We don't know. So we're kind of throwing things at it, right? Based on the protocols and the medical literature, based on what we have, we're doing the best with the resources we have.
That's why it's called the medical practice.
Yeah, of course.
It's called the medical practice. It's not clear cut. So that's why we get really scared when people are just going haphazardly and buying all these products online. They have no idea what that's really doing, right? And so for us, it's really important.
They're buying the trend.
They're buying the trend, not the science. So we pride ourselves in is like, look, dude, I know that you're not a professional and you don't want to take 10 years to discover this and learn. I do wish that you give me the time so that you can have a basic intellectual understanding of how your body actually functions so that you can be a participant in your rescue. Because the biggest value that I can provide you is teach you how to fish.
So you're helping people be their own doctor.
100%.
Their own
That's part of what's
medical
being
officer.
Of course,
that's part of our
necessary
promise.
given the bio-individuality and all of the anecdotal experience.
100%. And so the biggest thing I hate is
and
like,
the reason
it
why
worked
we're
really
doing
well
that-
for my friend. That's why I want to get it. I'm like, that's retarded.
And the reason, just to add, the reason why we're doing that is because we are not medical doctors. Yet we have a very successful practice. We pride ourselves in the job that we do. I mean, if you look at us anywhere online, we have an impeccable representation. And we didn't answer your question about what's our credentials. Well, we are not medical doctors. We don't have a degree in medicine or anything like that. But we are autodidacts, where we have relentlessly self-educated ourselves through courses, through workshops, through conferences,
Working with PhDs.
working with PhDs. You see the interview we had, and then we're getting our knowledge from people who are really pushing the envelope, right?
There's a lot of things changing in the internet age, but I think this is a big one. That the people with credentials are getting way outworked and outshined by the self-taught autodidacts.
Because there's a certain level of honesty with it.
It's much more honest. Ultimately, it's because you're hiding behind those credentials typically. And then there's always these stories of people like, oh, my doctor said to do it. It's like they're not in some unique position of authority, right? They act as if they are, but in the reality, they just went to medical school. They were taught a certain paradigm, one that often ignores all nutrition, all biohacking. So it doesn't even matter if you guys were, like, you can't say a medical doctor is someone that you would defer all of this to. You still need to be your own doctor. You could have a team of medical doctors backing you up.
And that's
you
the best
still
thing
need to
you
be
can
your
do.
own doctor.
I like to say that doctors, and I don't mean to disrespect them, but I would look at from where I'm at now, because of I had ED and I had to solve it by myself and there was really no help. Everybody's just generic stuff. Doctors to me are professional mechanics. Now there's a difference between a Toyota mechanic and a Formula One mechanic. We like to work with Formula One mechanics as much as we can, right? But at the end of the day, you're the engineer. You use the physician to help you evaluate and to understand what's going on. But then now that we have this incredible tool, AI, nobody has an excuse. You can fact check your doctor, and if you properly train it, you can get better answers than a doctor will ever be able to give you, right? You still need the doctors. Like they have their time and place. Well, for now, I mean, based on what Elon Musk, none of us are going to have a job.
Is going to replace surgeons, which is exciting and scary as hell. At the same
We're
time.
all going to be fucking out of jobs, periods. But I think the way we're setting it up is, you know, we are not a hormone clinic. We're not a peptide clinic. We are a lifestyle clinic. This is an entire, we are a biohack hub. And how do you grab all the modalities, red light, cold plunging, grounding, hormones, peptides, supplements, genes, cardiovascular, gut, electromagnetic training, all these modalities, how do you glue them in order to perform and thrive your best? And this is where I'll let you take from here. Medicine, this is something that just, I don't know, it came to me not too long ago. Medicine has to be experienced. We've been living medicine. It's not to
for
be
25 years, by the way, because we were performing athletes.
Yeah.
And so we were always looking for an edge. So before we even got into the clinic, it was like, how do we get that performance edge? And dude, we listened to I can't tell you how many trial and error experiments we've had with our own cells for 25 years, right? And then now we're doing it in the clinical environment, right? So to what Miguel was saying, I'm sorry to disappoint the crowd. We've been talking for an hour. We haven't even gotten to the first question about peptides, right? Because
we're gonna get there. We're
gonna get there. But it's just we have to kind of lay out the runway first. In order for you to take off and experience the value and the beauty and the precision of peptides. I just want to
add this because what if I told you that you could lower your tax bill and stack Bitcoin at the same time? Well, by mining Bitcoin with Blockware, you can. New guidelines from the Big Beautiful Bill allow American Bitcoin miners to write off 100% of their mining hardware investment in a single year. That's right, a 100% write-off. So if you had $100,000 of income or capital gains, you could write off that entire amount by investing it in Bitcoin mining hardware. Blockware's mining as a service allows you to start mining Bitcoin right now with minimal effort. Blockware handles everything from securing the miners to sourcing low-cost energy to configuring the mining pool. They do it all. You can stack Bitcoin at a discount every day and save big when tax season comes. So you can get started today by going to mining.blockwaresolutions.com/breedlove. Again, that's mining.blockwaresolutions.com/breedlove. Where I've arrived at, I mean, partly influenced by you guys, starting with the science, it's very useful, which things you should do. But then once you get going, that anecdotal data, to me, is the most important, right? You could tell me all day, this is the thing you should do, this is the thing you should do. When I do it and it doesn't feel right or something's not going the way I want it to, that's the most important feedback for me.
Intuition, 100%.
So medicine has to be experienced. It's not to just be prescribed.
Yes.
So as a doctor, if I was a doctor, I should not be prescribing drugs that I wouldn't take myself. Unfortunately, doctors are prescribing stuff they wouldn't take themselves. But why? And I don't mean to bash any doctors or speak bad about them because we work with them and we think they're very valuable. Now, the unfortunate part, and you love this because you go back to the Rockefeller, all these Carnegie, it comes from money. If you trace down medicine, it comes from trying to follow the money. If you follow the money, you can see that medicine, which is another product. And unfortunately, when you go to school, you don't have time to rebuttal or object what's on those books. You don't graduate. So the question you need to ask yourself, who wrote those books? Who's influencing those books? Big Pharma. There's a big incentive. That's why symptomatology is a big part of medicine. Find a pill for an ill approach. Right?
Whatever I can prescribe for it, that's what we're going to do. So anyways.
There's so much crossover with
let's
the
not go into the
economics.
conspiracy because we'll spend another hour there. I'm sorry, finish. Because I know he won't let that go.
It's the same principle, by the way, as the economics textbooks.
Yes,
exactly. Right? The central bankers right today. Yes. Of course, money printing is authorized and necessary. It's you're the one that wrote the book.
The toolbox they have is based on symptoms and diagnostics. You go to a conventional insurance-based doctor. Are you short of breath? Are you depressed? Have you had your screening? Have you had your flu shot? These are the type of questions you're getting. And based on those questions, this is their Bible. And then they have to go to residency. Well, not all of them do. So what makes a doctor board certified versus just a doctor is that the board certified went to residency. I think it's 2 or 3 years. For neurosurgeon, you have to go 6 years.
Where
so
they
you're being enslaved.
you.
And you're being
working
sleep deprived.
16 hours a day.
By the time you're done, you got possibly your $200,000 in debt. You got a mortgage. You got 3 kids. You don't have time to
even think outside the box,
right?
Man. It's just the fact of
and thinking outside the box is a career risk.
Yeah,
for those guys.
100%.
And the reason why I say that is because you have to take with a grain of salt everything that's being said to you. Now that we have AI, you can fact check everything, which I like. Is making medicine more honest, because doctors are being more cautious of what they say, because they know that you can pull it up in 1 second and fact check.
Show me the study.
And I actually like the doctors like ours that are being honest. They're using ChatGPT, trained ChatGPT. It's not random ChatGPT, meaning you're narrowing the broadcast to a specific amount of journals, institutions, so you can get your credentials from there, not just some random stuff. And even studies are flawed, right? Sure. Like in the New England Journal of Medicine, I think it was found like 8% of studies were all funded and paid for, right? So again, we're working with the most imperfect perfect medicine we have, right? So I just wanted to lay that.
So considering all those factors, whatever, we still have to do stuff and we have to go out there, right? So once we've covered all those things, and look, 98% of people that come to us don't have the basics mastered. And most of the basics are truly free. They're concepts that you can do every day. They don't have to cost a lot of money, right? And so, we take you through this process, and then we say, okay.
So you just came in, he's 300 pounds.
Yeah.
You get blood work.
Yeah, you get blood work, right? We start you on a program. We're like, hey, listen, look, I can either have you jump at the deep end of the pool and send you a massive amount of stuff that's all good for you. But are you really willing to do that? Like it's so massively overwhelming, the change, right? So you have to really gauge the person, and this is where it becomes really personal. Like I have to know, what time do you wake up? What's your job like? What's your commitment? What's your time? How many days a week are you going to be able to go to the gym? Is it 1, 2, 3 times a week? I'll work with any. But I just need to know the reality so I can adjust, because it serves no one for me to send you all these peptides. You're going to inject 16 times a day, and then you're just going to be like, dude, this is crazy. I can't do this, right? So it's like, hey, let's take it one step at a time.
Well, let's be the reality of it. And he's gone through it. They get a blood test. If you're deficient on testosterone, don't talk to me about peptide. On top of everything we said, but if you're deficient on testosterone, we got to treat your deficiencies.
Yeah, there's very just
maybe you can talk about that, and then and then take them through tier 1 to tier 3, and then we can get into peptides.
Yeah. Well, so
sequencing.
So there's very few peptides on an initial conversation.
Right. There's a time and place, and there's exceptions for sure.
We should talk about testosterone. I think it's so incredibly important.
Look, I think. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just having started. Because I did injectable TRT with you guys, a year or so ago. But after 3 weeks, it was like too much. I was like bulking. I was just like, I don't need this right now. And plus we were trying to get pregnant. So I was like, I just chilled out. Right. I just started again 5 weeks ago. And I guess I'm like at a better dose now or something. But man, the mental clarity. Yeah. Holy shit. And the way that it makes productive effort feel so good. My work game, my work ethic, my productivity has just gone through the roof, which is not a benefit people talk about a lot.
We talked about this, you and I. And, I think it's an amazing point because people oftentimes correlate testosterone with aggressiveness. Right?
And it's the opposite.
It makes you better able to deal with the stress and define the stress, or you're actually a lot more calmer in the storm.
Yes.
It's actually people with low testosterone that get freaked out or are stressed out of their mind.
Exactly.
Again, low resources, lots of demand.
Yes.
Same demand with a lot more resources.
Right. Yeah, you're more flimsy in a way. Yeah. Like kind of like your attitude, your grit, the way you show up in the world is if you're lower T, you're just going to be more of a leaf in the wind. 100%. Whereas I just feel
and I think so good for I think the most beautiful.
Are you taking magnesium by any chance?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get into that.
And I think that the most beautiful thing that happened as of a month ago, right? Because
January 10th.
Yeah, testosterone.
December 10th.
Yeah, testosterone has been demonized for 87 years. It's funny enough. 35,000 people roughly die from Tylenol use a year. 0 die from testosterone, right?
Yeah, no, it's about 16,000 from non-steroidal NSAIDs, and then benzodiazepine is about 15,000. Yeah. Take it from there. And then testosterone, how many have died from testosterone?
Nothing. So the most beautiful thing.
Therapeutically monitored use profession.
Right. Anything
not for bodybuilding.
Yeah, anything abuse, of course. Which by the way, just for context, that's 15 times what we would use therapeutically. Like bodybuilders use about 15 times what we would use therapeutically. 15x. So just to give you perspective, right?
15x water will kill you.
100%. Right. Exactly. So I think the most beautiful thing that happened is this Now, new position from the FDA, and I know how you feel about 3-letter agencies, but look, they control the world, right? So the thing that I liked is that they came out and they said, we apologize. We've been dickheads for 30 years, and we've slowed down the advantage of health benefits for people by demonizing testosterone, putting black box warnings that it causes heart disease or prostate cancer. I mean, dude, Abraham Morgentaler, right, the head of urology for the Harvard, went on there and said, listen, after 35 years of research on this, and me being the best specialist in the world, even if you have metastatic prostate cancer, it wouldn't do shit if you took testosterone, basically. Right? And so now, for anybody watching this, I advise you, the FDA has now caught up and now they have a YouTube channel. Go to the YouTube channel and look up at their
January
now
10th.
new position on testosterone.
Amazing.
Right? And the reason why I say that is because 95% of the people that come through ENDORSE talking about peptides and not hormone replacement, which that should come first, because if your hormones are fucked up, peptides are not going to do anything. They come with really bad misconceptions about what testosterone does, what it doesn't do, the dangers, the side effects, all this stuff. And it's all been just lies, just straight up lies.
It's kind of like the food pyramid thing, right? Like people thought they should eat grains mostly for so long.
Oh, no, now they flipped it.
I know they flipped it.
They flipped it.
That was going to be my question. Is this the RFK effect where like
I think so.
Guy's 71 ripping pull-ups at
And
the
he's on
airport.
testosterone.
He's on testosterone. He's open about it.
It's part of it. But Abraham Morgentaler, who's a urologist and a researcher, and he's been studying for 30 years. Let me just give you in 30 seconds the recap. First of all, in the 1880s, around there, I forgot, we were injecting testicular from other animals. From other animals, we were injecting testosterone, which is very dangerous. Then in 1935, we synthesized testosterone for the first time from cholesterol. You need cholesterol.
Right.
Then there's more things that happened, but then in 1990, testosterone was used in the Olympics as a performance enhancement drug. It scared the audience, and then they classified it as a Schedule 3, as a lifestyle substance that can be addictive.
Performance enhancement.
Performance enhancer. So they put it as a Schedule 3. So when our doctors prescribe testosterone, they need a DEA license to be able to prescribe this scheduled drug, right? Peptides are not on a schedule.
Right.
So it makes it more difficult to get your hands on. Right. So then in 2002, the Women's Health Initiative came aboard, which 40% of post-perimenopausal women were taking hormones.
Right.
When this initiative came out saying that women can have breast or uterus cancer, it dropped to 1.8%. Now we're at roughly 9%. It's still there. Meaning we are 40% of postmenopausal women. It dropped to 1.8 after that. Right. And now, what is that? 24 years later, it's like at 8 or 9%.
So women postmenopausal need testosterone?
Peri and post, as soon as you hit menopause, they don't menstruate.
So first thing you lose is testosterone.
And progesterone, estrogen.
So they also need to supplement with testosterone.
No, in fact, I watched the Women's Health Initiative because they have it on the FDA website. Really recommend it if you're a woman.
And let me stop you because the reason why he's asking is because it wasn't clear. So the WHO came out and said, hey, hormones cause cancer for women, which now they've walked back because they were using synthetic hormones.
Okay.
They weren't using bioidentical
To be exact, they were using mare's urine, which is horse's urine, but horses produce 9 different estrogenic metabolites, only of 3 that are human.
They're using horse piss for testosterone?
Premarin. No, they were using mare's urine to synthesize estrogen, but the estrogen that was being synthesized carried estrogens that are not natural to the human body.
Out of 9 metabolites, estrogenic metabolites, estradiol, estrone, are human. The rest are not human.
And they were injecting that into women, and then they did the study, and a bunch of them got cancer.
And because they were using synthetic estrogen, which was called Premarin, which, believe it or not, is still being used.
Premarin,
and then progestin, which is a synthetic form of progesterone. But what has been shown that bioidentical hormones, not synthetically derived from different animals that are vegetable or egg yam based, have never been shown to produce any form of disease.
Which is why they walked back.
Wait, no, I'm taking, so from the 2002 Women's Health Initiative, it went from 40% of women, meaning you went to the hospital, you're like, you have menopause, right there and then they were prescribing you hormones, even in hospitals. This is what I'm shocked about it. Hospitals were doing this. Then it dropped to 1.8% because of the fear of this study that is causing uterine cancer. So stop taking the hormones. So 40% of women who were taking it dropped to 1.8%.
Wow.
Now it's up to 8%. Then in 2000,
And women's health plummeted.
yeah. And then 2016, which by the way, I didn't know that the number one cause of death in women is cardiovascular disease.
Which goes up 3x in postmenopausal women.
Yes.
Wow.
3x. Immediately when you go through menopause, your chances of getting heart disease is 3x.
Yeah.
Think about that
Yeah,
for a second.
it's like 1 in 32 women. Once you have menopause, it drops to like 1 in 2.8. It's some crazy number like that. But the point is, 2016, the Mayo Clinic and Harvard University came out with their medical consensus, their update consensus, which was, so you have an idea of how complex this was and how robust it was. It was 4 different specialties: urology, andrology, cardiology, endocrinology specialties.
5 different continents.
Over 17 countries, 26 research and medical institutions were involved, and they gave their medical consensus on testosterone, which testosterone is a well-documented, significant medical condition. Testosterone deficiency increases your risk of all-cause mortality, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome, which metabolic syndrome is the gateway to every other chronic major disease that we know. Testosterone therapy does not cause prostate nor cardiovascular
Issues.
cardiovascular disease, nor prostate cancer. And what else? Testosterone therapy should be tailored individually to the patient's symptoms, not just based on a number.
There's no age limit.
Right.
Right.
Global public health considered a global public health concern in 2015.
Deficiency.
So for every influencer and every person that says, it's been considered a global public health concern by all of these specialists internationally, 5 different continents, as a consensus for 10 years now.
Wow.
And I skipped one part. I'm so sorry. Big, huge part. Dr. Charles Huggin, who in the 1940s did a study on 3 patients, flawed study. 3 patients.
3 patients.
I'm not going to get into the details, but basically 2 were thrown out because they just had
They didn't
erratic
qualify.
labels. They didn't qualify.
One of them was castrated.
Yeah. So it was based on one patient who they were testing at the time something called acid phosphatase, which is a marker that hasn't been used in like 80 years. That is irrelevant, but when given testosterone, this acid phosphatase went up and it increased the prostate, accelerated the cancer. Based on this flawed study, it lingered till today.
Since the 40s.
Because this individual... What?
I was just, what the fuck? How does that, you do a study on one guy
One
and we're
guy.
still talking about
One
it
guy
80
changed
years
the
later?
But 80 years later, it changed.
But that sounds like propaganda.
No,
to
but
me.
here's the problem.
100%.
Here's the problem. This is 1940s we're talking about.
Yeah.
World War II. This guy got a Nobel Prize.
Nobel Prize.
In,
So nobody
like
wanted
in the
to challenge him.
60s. And so nobody really knew testosterone. Nobody was going to challenge him. Nobody was really doing this. And to add to it, nobody really had a deficiency back then.
Good point.
We were
actually.
metabolically strong, biologically strong, right? We weren't weak. So that lingered around for, what is that? That's the 40s. That's almost 70 years. And then in 2013, the Finkel study came out saying the black box warning on testosterone that it could cause cardiovascular disease. A year later, another one called the Vegan study in 2014, which now have been completely debunked. So 2016, the study that I just said, the 26 medical research institutions, 17 countries, basically came out with this consensus. One more to that consensus that when, which was updated when the C hit. I don't even say it because it can shut this down. When the C hit, those who had optimized...
We call it the plandemic.
The pandemic. There you go. I like it. I like that. Yeah. Pandemic. Okay.
So those who had optimal testosterone, their risk of dying slashed by half versus those who had low testosterone levels. Then in 2023, the Traverse trial came out, which was the first like double-blind, placebo, randomized control study, which is gold standards. I think it's silver. There's 3 of them, but it's up there. And it was a huge population showing that testosterone does not cause cardiovascular disease.
Actually, it's the other
Sorry,
way around.
2018. I forgot. The Urology Association, the American Urology Association in 2018 came out with their American Urology Association Testosterone Deficiency Guideline, showing that having testosterone under 300 level nanograms per deciliter puts you at risk of cardiovascular
Well, no,
disease.
the actual, like you can actually go on their website. You can go to the Urology Association's website, article number 13, right on the front page. You could just scroll down, you go to article 13, it says guidance for testosterone deficiency. And it's basically the American Urology Association telling all of the urologists in the nation, you should make your patients aware that anybody under 300, their drastic increase for cardiovascular risk. So it's not high testosterone that causes cardiovascular risk, it's low testosterone.
Wow.
So going back to the original question, the reason why we're very adamant about testosterone, it's not because we want to push testosterone, it's this whole thing. Like, I think you're the greatest voice for this because most doctors will look at you, right? And be like, this guy's huge.
Yeah.
Like, he's already intimidating as it is. Like, there's no way that this guy needs testosterone. He has muscles in his ears. Like, what are we talking about here, right? You know, he has levels
ears
in the
are tiny,
900.
actually.
Like, why are we doing this,
But
right?
just at full, the reason I did it with you guys, my T was good. It was like 850.
You're
I
right,
think.
yeah.
But my free T
was low.
was a little low.
Right.
because of your sex hormone globin, which was binding
Yeah.
to
Yes.
Which most labs don't check. I mean, companies in our space, obviously they know this now, but just on the traditional side, they won't test your free testosterone.
And that's the one that matters most,
That's
as you
the one that
always say.
only matters.
Yes. And I feel the difference, honestly.
So to go to your point is, and for anybody watching this that wants to talk about peptides, it's like, look,
Wait. 2023, now 2025, December 10th, they come out.
they walk back everything.
No, I recommend all of you.
Every single one person.
We've been in this industry for almost 15 years. I recommend all of you to go watch it because it looked like when we go to conferences and we look at a medical presentation, dude, they were putting graphs and out. This is how I told you the whole thing since 1935. They went from 1935 till today and beat the hell out of all the flawed studies.
it's
saying,
not the FDA
This is an
talking.
epidemic, and this is why testosterone is not only scientific and evidence-based, but it's also logical, effective,
Safe.
and safe.
And by just one other thing to throw in there, I don't know, again, it's kind of like, it's anecdotal observation from my perspective.
And you have a really good intuition.
Well, look at
You're
the
pretty good at
guys
that.
that abused the shit out of testosterone, steroids, whatever, right? You've got Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger. These guys are still making it to their 70s, their 80s, their
and
90s.
they're banking it.
Right? So it's like, and those are
Crushing
the guys probably running 15X or 10 or whatever. Like
At one point.
But we're crazy number.
We're gonna get to so when we're their age, we're gonna smoke them.
Yeah, but,
we're smoking
but
them.
so for everybody watching,
Just like that's anecdotal evidence that it's not this lethal thing. You take
course.
too much testosterone, you're going
Of
to
course.
die.
Yeah. Or,
how the hell would Sylvester Stallone be in his 80s?
Yeah.
and the anecdotal evidence.
And he's still on it, by the way. Like, you look at the guy.
100% he's on it, man.
Yeah.
100% he's on it. So I always like to say, hey, if you remember the Renaissance period, you'll see the guys, the representation that the painters were making of the guys, the warriors of those times, which, by the way, weren't eating every day. They weren't pumping, weights, and they certainly weren't injecting peptides. They looked like Greek gods, right? You look at the average guy in the mall today. What does that look like? Bro, so these levels, we had 4,000 levels of testosterone. So these levels,
Look at
who
Roman
ca-
Empire.
who
I mean,
cares?
their sculptures.
But
Right.
the point that I'm trying to make and what we advise the reason why this is really important for us that have been in the industry for so long is because we're in the front lines dealing with the massive
see the reality.
misinformation, all of this stuff. And so if you really want to do your research on testosterone, you only need to go to one place. You need to go to the December 10th FDA, which, by the way, it's not the FDA talking.
Right.
They brought all of the specialists
Expert board.
that have done the dirty work for 3 decades to tell you on the different subjects. You want to talk about cardiovascular disease? Let's talk about that. You want to talk about immunosuppressing? Let's talk about that. You want to talk about fertility? Let's talk about that. You want to talk about every section that testosterone changes and touches? Let's talk about that and give you the reality.
Completely debunked and
And so
dismantled all of it.
Going back to you and why we're so adamant about testosterone is because, we have endocrine disrupting chemicals. That's a reality. We're seeing it every day in our practice. And as ethical practitioners, we're saying, hey, you want peptides, yeah? I can sell you $5,000 peptide, like a $5,000 super, elite peptide therapy that won't do half of what a $300 testosterone therapy will
exactly
do
right.
from every single system in the body, from immunological optimization to cardiovascular optimization to brain stimulation, everything that you can think of.
Yeah.
You know, you want to talk about longevity, you want to talk about disease prevention, you want to talk about performance, you want to talk about energy and mental clarity. $300 of testosterone will do it versus $5,000 of peptides.
Totally makes sense. And it's, you know, the peptides are great, but
The peptides are great.
but the testosterone is in a whole nother league, a
They're-
whole other category.
They're
Yeah.
the decoration to the home.
Yes.
But the infrastructure is the testosterone and the supplements.
Yes.
The way that we like to say it is, you know, HRT is the trunk of the tree, the supplements, the resource, and all that
HRT?
stuff. Hormone
Hormone replacement.
Yeah, got it.
It's not
Okay.
just
We like to
testosterone.
say hormone optimization.
right?
Got it.
Hormone optimization, because you don't necessarily have to be quote unquote deficient in the labs to optimize.
Yeah.
But HRT is the trunk of the tree.
Right.
The materials, the supplements, all this stuff is the nutrition for the roots of the tree, and peptides seasonally decorate the branches.
Yeah. Okay.
You know.
Yeah. That seems right.
Right. And
Yeah.
so when someone calls us about peptides, we're like, unless you're send me a picture, man. Unless you're telling me your labs look amazing, you look amazing, and you're ready, let's go.
Yeah.
Now, there are a few.
Remember, the labs look amazing, but what does that
What does
actually
that
mean?
mean?
And even if you like, I wasn't that bad of shape when I came in,
No,
but my
you
labs
weren't.
are
Yeah,
still
you weren't.
off.
You're
Like,
a stud.
you
You're
know
a
what?
stud.
And I didn't know. Again, you don't know, right? Like I come in, I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I've tested my T before. I know I'm going to be fine. I feel fine. I work hard. I work out. All these things. But like, you see the science, and you're like, oh wait, this is actually a little low. And then you start taking it, and you feel like,
Bam.
holy shit.
Like your lights come back on.
And the like, just not again. I don't sell testosterone. I don't care if you take it or not. But like, just a personal anecdote. It really seems like my productivity is so much higher now. I'm like,
It's not an anecdote. It's real.
it's real.
This
It's
$200
real
or
what you're saying.
$300 adjust. I don't know. I maybe spent
$200 a month.
$200 a month.
$200 to $300 a
I
month.
feel like
depending.
my earnings potential has at least doubled.
At
You know,
least.
like,
And by the way, the enjoyment of that potential,
which is why the potential is doubled.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm hungry. I woke up at 4:48 this morning. I'm like, let's go.
let's get it. So there is a time and place for certain peptides that we use prior to this to get leverage, like tirzepatide. I mean, Jesus, this thing is what an amazing technological advancement that we have in a compound that can solve a lot of problems really quick and give someone momentum, right? But there's also BPC and these things. When you have an injury, you want to instruct the body to do this quicker, especially if you're older, right? But we always tell you, hey, you're going to do tirzepatide without these things, you're going to lose muscle.
Sure,
so
sure,
you have to do the materials. You want to repair your bones and all stuff, you got to have the materials, right?
Yeah.
So going back to this original question, like, look, for us as ethical practitioners, let's go.
What is the
in-
original
let's-
question? I don't
let's
even know
go-
what the
well,
original question
Let's
is.
go in order. Let's go in order.
So
Let's build a house
what
in
I'm,
order.
What I'm gathering is like the 300-pound guy comes in. Hey,
yes,
what's
yes,
going
yes,
on?
yes, yes.
First thing, how's your testosterone?
Yeah,
Right.
How's your biochemistry in general?
Yeah, so do the blood work.
Yeah.
Also, I guess check his lifestyle. All right, what are you
100%.
doing when do you go to the gym?
The fundamentals we already spoke about.
fundamentals.
Light
Sleep,
environment,
nutrition.
But then the first intervention, I don't know if you call it an intervention.
Yeah, no, that's correct.
Is testosterone, because testosterone is structural in this metaphor.
Correct.
So now let's say he's done that. He's on the tee. He's doing the gym 3 days a week. He's getting sleep and sun and I don't know, good nutrition. Like, what are the next steps?
Yeah.
in the
So
process?
and before let me just one little caveat before we get there, because we're almost at the original question an hour and a half later. But one thing,
which was what is a peptide? Right?
okay. But I want to remind people this, because look, you can go anywhere. You don't have to come to us.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to tell you. Like, if you're looking into peptides, just by nature it tells me that you want an edge. You want to feel better. There's a bunch of things you want to perform better, whatever it is. So we take the assumption, right, that when you call us, you want to be in that top 2 to 1% of healthiest individuals in America. And America's not doing very good right, when it comes to this, right?
It's not a high bar.
So, but we take the assumption, because that's what I want for you.
Yeah.
I want you to be crushing it, right? So we take the assumption that you want to be in that top 1 to 2%. So it's very important for people, because, like you, oh, my testosterone was fine. I was an 800. Well, what the fuck does that even mean? So I want people to understand really quickly. I'm not going to go into complex stuff, but what do these labs mean? So how do we gather these numbers? So this is really interesting, because I realized this a couple of years ago, and that's what we've been telling our doctors, like, dude, labs almost don't mean shit. It's just little guideposts that we use. So every single year, LabCorp, Quest, Access Labs, all these conglomerate labs, they go out and they say, they have, as you can imagine, immense databases. And they say, hey, Robert, come down to our facility. We'll give you a movie ticket and a free cheeseburger so we can collect your labs. So you can imagine the people that are going there, okay? Yeah. So they collect about 10,000 people at most, okay? Mm-hmm. And this is what they're saying that represents 350 million Americans.
Wow.
Okay? Now, I could swallow that, right? If you're telling me that the rats that you are studying are rats that are healthy. Mm-hmm. But let's consider the state of the average American.
No, dude.
3 out of 4 Americans are considered obese. Half the country's in pre-diabetic conditions. 93% of Americans have some kind of metabolic dysfunction and on a bunch of different drugs: cholesterol, blood pressure, ED, testosterone. I mean, it's a disaster, right? Here's what people don't know though. When they come up with their averages, and I'll tell you, most doctors don't even know. When they come up with the averages, this is not like a medical board that gets together every year and says, hey, how are we going to decide to change these numbers? Because these numbers have been changing every year.
They've been dropping.
So they go out and they say this, okay, so we're going to collect these 10,000 people. We're going to do the averages, 30-year-old male, 45-year-old black male, whatever, right? They put them in categories, and here's what they do. Those averages, when you see lab ranges, that is 95% of that 10,000 group. Yeah. Okay, 95%. And here's the key point.
And what that means is on a 2 standard deviation, which is it makes up 95% of the population. What happened to the other 5?
Yeah. So here's what happened to the other 5. They cut off the bottom 2.5% of the results, meaning the worst people. Yeah. But they also cut off the top 2.5%.
The Michael Jordans,
the Michael Jordans, the Tom Brady's, the LeBron James. So when you go to a doctor and be like, hey, I want to feel better, optimizing, I want to crush it. They don't even know what that means. Yeah. Because we don't know that 2.5% tile, what it looks like.
Just an example number, and correct me where I'm wrong here, but I think it's above 250 normal testosterone, and the 263 is normal, right?
263, you're in the range.
But earlier you were saying the urologists, right? Below 300, you've got all this higher propensity for all these diseases.
Correct.
So the standard is shit.
It goes from 263 to 997. So whether you hit the bullseye or the outer edge of the target, whether you're 20 or 90 years old, you're okay.
You're okay.
Right.
So the urology
that makes no scientific sense.
Yes. And so because you asked a great question. What are the differences in the numbers? So the Urology Society, the Endocrinology Society says whatever the lowest number of whatever lab is performing these ranges, whatever they come up with, this 10,000, 95%, all this bullshit, whatever the lowest number they come up with, that's what we're going to consider low testosterone. So they put it up and they leave it up to the lab and they leave it up to the population, not them as medical professionals. And then the Urology Society, because urologists were getting these labs, and Quest said one thing, LabCorp said one thing, Access said one thing, and they're like, dude, we're just going to choose an even number. Let's call it 300.
One of my highest health priorities is keeping my brain in top shape. To take care of my brain power, I do many things, such as striving to read, write, exercise, and meditate daily. One of the latest tools in my brain power toolkit is MindLab Pro. MindLab Pro is a nootropic supplement that is scientifically proven to enhance your brain power. When I take MindLab Pro, my mind feels like it has a better grip on the world, my thinking is more lucid, and the articulation of my speech is radically improved. MindLab Pro has been tested in rigorous, double-blind, placebo-controlled human trials and has been proven to enhance brain power for users in every age group. MindLab Pro is an advanced formulation of 11 nootropic ingredients and is backed by research from over 1,400 human trials conducted over the past 32 years. So if you're looking to enhance your brain power, MindLab Pro is an excellent solution. Go to mindlabpro.com/breedlove to start enhancing your brain power today. Again, that's mindlabpro.com/breedlove. Yeah. The other thing that reminded me of giving away these cheeseburgers and Happy Meals to get people to come in, that sounds a lot like the pandemic as well. Giving away all this stuff. So these averages, and forgive, this may sound terrible, but they're kind of scraping the bottom of these hierarchies of human hierarchies. Like, hey, people that are really out of shape, come in here and get your labs done, and we're going to call this average for everyone else. It's like, holy shit.
So if,
Way to
if
set
that's
your
what you're
sights low.
if that's you're considered normal, I have no interest in measuring myself up against that.
Yes, exactly.
That's not even a bar.
right. Exactly.
That's not even a bar,
Yeah.
right? So I want to. What does Tom Brady look like?
Yeah.
You know? What does
Yeah.
Michael Jordan look like when he was 35?
Yeah.
Right? That's what I want to look like.
Yeah.
Right. So, anyways, now we've arrived at peptides. Yeah.
No,
Are we finally there? Oh shit.
But let's fast forward the tape a little bit. How much time we got so I can make sure we fast forward?
We said we'd leave at 6, so we got about an hour 30.
Okay, perfect. We got time. We can get it all in. All right, so we're gonna talk a little bit before we hit the supplements. Just tier 1, 2, 3, tier 3, kind of.
Yeah,
like
so
just,
look,
wait, but before we do that, I just want to touch that when you take testosterone, most people are not considering that you're shutting down something called the HPA axis, hypothalamus pituitary testicular. There's a feedback loop between your testes and your hypothalamus and pituitary going down to your testes. So when you take testosterone, you're shutting down not just testosterone. You're shutting down your gonadotropic releasing hormones like luteinizing hormone, follicle-stimulating hormone, which are not just helping your testes to produce natural T, but has other longevity effects for the body. You're also shutting down neuroprotective steroids like pregnenolone and DHEA, which when you take testosterone long-term, 6 months or above, this HPA axis completely is suppressed. And what happens is these neurosteroids drop, and these two, DHEA and pregnenolone, are responsible for 35 other neurosteroids. And when you take testosterone, you say you have that mental clarity is because the most amount of testosterone receptors are in your brain, your heart, and your musculoskeletal system. So that's why they're nourished, but you're leaving out the ones that are neuroprotective and are preventing neurodegenerative
That's why
diseases.
we were supplementing with those.
Yeah,
Yes.
with
Okay.
DHA
Yeah. Very
and, so,
important.
and you know, you make a really great point, and we'll finish the testosterone talk.
I just wanted to
because
just, and you can even just add real fast. But I'm not going to gain my fertility back.
That's
Okay.
it. So
that's important, yeah.
first of all, if look, there's already been studies on this. It's already proven, not only scientific with like real studies, but we've seen this in our practice hundreds and hundreds of times. You know, you're an example, right? You know, you're pregnant, right?
Yeah,
and you used to take testosterone. So congratulations, right? Like, so it's bullshit. So it's been proven that. So if you're concerned about your fertility, the only thing we're concerned with is when do you need to be fertile, because we can time that now. But this begs a deeper question, because the biggest fear is, and this is no offense to anybody, because I was there, and most guys get there. It's almost like a self-worth thing. Like, oh, I don't want to get on testosterone because the moment I get on testosterone, I'm going to shut down my own production.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, but not true to the extent that you're saying, because if you get off testosterone, even if you do nothing, clinical studies have shown it, within 2 to 6 weeks, you're back online.
Right.
It's not like you take testosterone and you fry your system forever.
Well, no, you do if you're taking super physiological
physiological
doses.
doses.
You
Right.
fry the whole feedback
The
loop.
15x
15x.
bodybuilders.
The
And then you're
15x.
completely dependent, and
Right.
it takes longer, not just 2 weeks. It could take, some people could take months. It could kind of like
If
take
you
a while
do
to
nothing,
wake up.
but there's
if you do
things you
nothing,
can do.
Yeah, if you do nothing, and
Yeah.
I've seen guys do nothing, and they're like, I didn't even feel anything.
Yeah.
right. I didn't. There was no lag time.
Yeah.
Now there's some guys that drag ass for a couple, a couple weeks, maybe a couple
Uh,
months.
again, everybody's different.
Everybody's
There's
super
genetic
different.
coding.
But the
How
point
is
is
that all
this. The
set?
point that I'm trying to make is this. Look, if you do, so the whole thing, oh, I don't want to start testosterone because I'm going to be dependent on it. It's almost like a victim mentality, right? Because for that, don't take anything. Don't eat food. Right? You need things, right? And especially with everything that we're talking about, EDCs and nutrient deficiencies. But the point is this: a leader thinks of it this way. Hey, here are the numbers. I have less testosterone than an 80-year-old. I need to perform. And you're telling me that I could take something that is considered safe by every medical institution in the world, considered effective, it's super cost efficient, and you mean to tell me that I can go from a level 5 productivity to a level 10 and stay there? The question really becomes, why the hell would I ever want to go back to the 5?
Right.
That's how a leader thinks.
Feel better and healthier and performing better and looking better.
Bro, it's like going
Increase-
from a Toyota to the truck that's outside, bro.
What's it called? The apocalyptic.
The apocalyptic
that
truck.
truck-
I mean, do you think I want to get off that truck? No, bro.
That
I'm
truck
going
is
back.
definitely on testosterone.
Yeah.
I think it's a way more than this.
And for guys, it always works like with the high level guys. I'm like, hey, listen, what kind of car do you drive, man? And he's like, oh, I drive a Porsche. I'm like, why not a Toyota Corolla?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great metaphor.
What, do you want to go back to a Toyota
Yeah.
Corolla? He's like, no, fuck that. I'm like, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So, anyways, We're done.
So we also interviewed this.
Sorry, this is to your guys' credit, real quick.
Yeah.
Because again, peptides, way higher price, way higher margins.
Yes.
It's the fucking theme right now. You could just
Trend.
be selling this shit to everyone.
Everybody's an expert on peptides
Ignore
now.
testosterone. Just buy all this.
Yeah.
But you just, I mean, I know it's lower margin. It's been around for a long time. It's $200 a month. But you point people there first.
$100 a month.
Because that is
Robert,
$100 bucks a month.
If you're doing testosterone
It's the right
by
thing to
itself,
do.
When I say 300,
100
it's like with core supplements in it.
Yeah, okay.
$100 a month for testosterone, and it'll
Changes your
do
life.
5 times what a peptide will do for
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
man,
yeah.
from a longevity perspective, right? So, but just really quickly because of the sake of time, and I know you want to get there. So here's what we like.
Well, no, just say the Ramasamy so they understand because people are like, my fertility. Okay, the science shows clearly that Ramasamy, who's a urologist who was a chief urologist from the University of Miami, Harvard grad with over 300 peer-reviewed studies. This guy is a geek.
He knows his stuff.
He knows his stuff. One of his landmark studies is that he did a study, I think it was like 300 men who had been taking testosterone with no testicular stimulants, meaning no HCG, no clomiphene, no anything. So meaning completely suppressed.
Over a
or
decade.
Mitigated for over a decade. Got them off testosterone, got them on HCG and clomiphene 3 times a week. The course was supposed to be run for 6 months. He shut down at 3 months because 96% of the participants recovered their fertility.
Fully.
Wow.
And that is without having a baseline of sperm on the first one. So how do we know they weren't infertile from the beginning or in the first place?
Wow.
So it could be, let's say, maybe 1 or 2% of that.
Yeah.
So there's a 96 minimum percent that you're going to recover your fertility. Those are pretty big odds.
And we've seen it,
Wow.
like anecdotally, we've seen it in 100% of our patients.
And so your fertility does go
It-
to
it-
zero when you're on it, but
No,
it's
you're
very
not-
likely to-
you're not-
Well, I'm
spermless.
gonna let Miguel do like he did an anecdotal like rat study on himself. But so based on the labs, right?
Yeah.
So let's just say your body is used to 800 levels of testosterone. You put testosterone in the body, you go to 600. Your body says, "Dude, we have no work here. There's plenty of stuff." As a matter of fact, let's go to Fiji. We've been working for 35 years, and so your system goes dormant.
Right.
It goes into hibernation mode. And so when you shut down the testosterone production, because it's on the same axis, you will also like shut down sperm production.
Got it.
Or they're weaker and sort of asleep. You're still producing. The litmus test is a sperm
Right.
test.
Yeah, sperm
Sure.
test.
Because when you're measuring blood, you're measuring LH and FSH. Remember what we
Yeah.
said? The immunoassays,
Yeah.
they're still off, but they're suppressed.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you're completely shut
That's
down.
right.
Dude, we have hundreds of patients who have impregnated their wife while on testosterone
Yeah,
therapy,
yeah.
not wanting to.
And
not
a
wanting to.
lot of guys also they microdose the HCG while on the testosterone, and they're still fertile.
Yeah, but then you
typically.
can also shut down the HPA if you use
With
HCG
HCG.
nonstop.
Yeah.
You were one of them.
You were one of them. Like
I
me.
remember when you looked at them,
Very
you were one of
sensitive
them.
people.
You had been on
Yeah.
forever.
Very sensitive people.
No,
I
I've
actually
been
shut
on
down.
for 3 months, I think.
No, when I met you, you had
Yeah.
been taking it for a very long time.
No,
and
3
I remember
months, but I was suppressed.
you were suppressed.
But just in 3 months
Right.
of HCG,
I shut
was
down
suppressed.
3 weeks into HCG.
I see.
So the point of, first of all, it takes 3 months to mature sperm.
Yeah.
I was injectable testosterone, which is the one that suppresses you the most.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a sperm test. 3 weeks before the sperm test, I started shooting myself up with HCG and HMG, which is human menopausal gonadotropin,
Guinea pig
which
stuff.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see if I can produce. I came back with 306 million sperm.
That's a lot.
With 46% motility, which is healthy and very healthy
The
morphology.
average guy on nothing is 25 million.
Oh wow. Okay.
It
So
used to be 95 million.
Those are peptides too, right? HCG, HMG.
Yeah, HCG is considered a peptide,
Yeah.
but it's also because we'll get into what makes a peptide and a polypeptide and a protein. We'll get into that.
Okay.
So now that we're okay, so
Wait. So
the fat guy.
Yeah, the fat guy. So we got you on testosterone, but we got to talk about some key stuff. That's why I asked you about the
All
magnesium
right.
this time.
1 hour warning,
Yeah.
guys.
Yes,
just
yes,
so
yes,
you
Yeah,
know.
no, I got it.
move
This
through
is going to be rapid fire. So let's try to go through tier 1 through tier
Okay,
3
so,
supplements. Fill in some stuff if you want, but I'll just start real fast. Magnesium. Whenever you're prescribing testosterone, you need to be on magnesium.
Glycinate or
Glycinate.
glycinate.
Yeah,
sorry,
most
yes.
people recommend now 3 and 8 because it actually crosses the blood-brain barrier. No other magnesium can do that. So it can really help for sleep. But the glycinate, bisglycinate, which has a double glycine molecule, actually calms your central nervous system down. So testosterone puts you on the sympathetic, puts you fight or flight. And the problem is that testosterone, the spark plug to create the enzymatic combustion for testosterone to do its effect of everything you're experiencing, it relies on an enzyme called 17-beta hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase. That is actually the name.
Oh, that's a mouthful.
Yeah. So that enzyme is responsible for sparking and catalyzing the magical effects behind testosterone. The problem is that roughly 75% of the population has a deficiency or an insufficiency. So when you put testosterone, as my brother always says, your Toyota Corolla consumes much less gas than when you floor a Ferrari.
Right.
So when you go from Toyota Corolla and you step in a Ferrari and now you're revving the engine, you're going to the gym and you're producing, you're like moving. I'm waking up at 4:45 in the morning. Let's push again. You're depleting these levels, and that's why you become anxious. You become irritable.
Insomniac.
You start having insomnia.
And people are like, oh my God, the
fatigue.
testosterone's making me aggressive and all this stuff. It's like, no, dude, you ran out of oil going 100 miles an hour in the freeway. What do you expect?
So a couple things that you want to know about magnesium is, first of all, at least a little bit more about 40%, but at least 40% of all the enzymatic reactions in your body, which is roughly about 800 diverse enzymatic reactions, is magnesium dependent. For example, when we work out, 6 out of the 9 enzymes required for that workout are magnesium dependent. It's called anaerobic glycolysis. Your red blood cells rely on solely anaerobic glycolysis. And if you have a magnesium and copper deficiency, your red blood cells go from 120 days on average living, which is the turnover of cells, down to 20 days, which is an 84% loss in cellular lifespan.
It's huge.
Wow.
Nitric oxide production relies on magnesium, which is what creates vascular health and blood flow. The last enzymatic step to produce, just like testosterone, the last enzymatic step for ATP production, which is the universal energy currency in all animal life on planet Earth and what our cells need, is magnesium dependent.
Wow.
And then testosterone through the 17-beta hydroxysteroid dehydrogenase is you get that combustion, right? And the list goes on. I'm just giving you main ones.
Yeah.
Anything else for magnesium? Or
No, we're good on magnesium.
360 milligrams before bed. I think that's what I take.
If you're on testosterone, typically,
guy like you, bro,
I'm a
go
cool,
higher.
calm, collected. Look, the therapeutic ceiling for magnesium,
for magnesium,
even especially if you're on testosterone, is 2,000 milligrams per day. Doesn't mean that you need that much.
Okay.
I take 1,200.
Yeah, you take
12.
But you know my personality.
I know you, yeah.
And he needs it because
I just take whatever Miguel does, multiply by 50%. That's usually my number.
divide.
Yeah. No, multiply by 50%. Don't divide it by 50%.
Right. So like I'm more cool, calm, collected. So I can get away with 750 milligrams of magnesium per day. That's like to do everything that he just said.
I'm the sergeant militant guy. He's more the diplomacy guy, right? So there's a different.
So he's
We
more,
know.
he's more on the anxious side, right, and revved up, right. So guys like him need 1,200, 1,500 to be like manageable.
So I take 300 milligrams upon wake up time. 300 milligrams at lunchtime because I take pills 3 times a day. 300 at evening, and then I take 600 before bed.
So it does not make you sleepy then?
It calms the central nervous system down. It cools.
You definitely need a lot of that.
Because if you're a type A personality and you're on the go, this stuff can get unmanageable. Like I tell him all the time, like if he doesn't take his magnesium, he's insufferable. But and I'll tell you why that is though. It's not that he's broken.
It's hard to put up
I'll
with
tell you
myself.
what it is though.
It sounds like an old married couple.
And this goes back to your point about mental clarity crushing and this whole thing. It's like, dude, and I'll give people a warning. You know this. Our population is asleep, man. They're asleep, dude. So when you're on testosterone and you upgrade, it's like you just learned you upgraded your chess skills by 10x. So you're playing chess and the next person's like
Playing checkers.
they don't, and you're like, dude, so you become really sensitive to incompetency. Incompetency is rampant.
Yeah.
Right. So you need, and it's because you're just like seeing 15 steps ahead. And so your engine is revving. You need something to cool it down. Right? And that's magnesium.
So we have a product called CALM, which is magnesium bisglycinate, gamma aminobutyric acid, which is the main inhibitory neurotransmitter, because we have a glutamate and gamma aminobutyric acid, a seesaw. So right now we're producing a lot of glutamate. That's why you don't want to have intense stimulation in your brain at night, because you'll produce glutamate, and it's a neuroexcitatory neurotransmitter, but too much of it is toxic, and you don't need it at night.
You want the GABA at night.
So you take the GABA at night to kind of. So you don't want to have an intense conversation with a person, especially with a wife, at night when you take this stuff. And then when you combine it with L-theanine, this is where we're going to get to the stacking of peptides, because it does work. The synergistic effect works much better than the standalone of magnesium by itself. So when you combine the L-theanine, which is a common amino acid, with the gamma aminobutyric acid with the magnesium, it really calms you down, and you can slow down.
But for the mere mortal, testosterone, magnesium.
Whatever you can get your hands on.
Listen, if that's an apocalyptic scenario, you can't get your finances are messed up.
Whatever
you,
magnesium.
You can't get past that. Testosterone and magnesium, you're gonna be okay. That's the oh shit protocol, right? So
and again, so cost effective, man. You said $100 a month for testosterone. That magnesium is less than that. Way less than that.
$45 for like 180 pills. Dude. It's crazy. So the next thing, and I just want to rapid fire because we don't have a lot of time. Vitamin D. I mean, vitamin D. Look, we live in the sunshine state. 98% of the people that we test are vitamin D deficient. It has over 3,000 physiological responses in the body. I mean, it's endless. You know, it's involved in 10%.
It has over 100,000 studies. It shows it reduces chances of cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, depression, and it's involved in 10 to 20% of all your genetic expressions. So everything biologically and physically that you're experiencing is 10 to 20% is vitamin D involved.
And supplementing, because I've heard some people retort that supplementing vitamin D doesn't actually help so much. It just helps your lab results rather than those processes.
Partly true. That is partly true. And this is where we weren't about genetics. We have a break in our gene that doesn't, so our numbers look pretty, but our cells are not absorbing.
They're not actually absorbing. They're not causing the genetic expression. The name to the game is when we get to test on blood, when you're looking at your labs, if everything is intracellular measurements.
And we'll get there.
Because what doesn't get into the cell doesn't get expressed. So you can have a bunch of stuff in your blood, the serum of the blood, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it unlocked the door and expressed itself. That's the problem.
Right. So but you know, because we don't have this testing again, and we're just being completely transparent, and every other practitioner that you go to is going to do the same thing. We're kind of throwing things to see if they stick, right?
Sure.
But from a like a statistical perspective, 9 out of 10 times when we put these things in the body, we get a reaction. Right. So testosterone, magnesium, vitamin D, and the last piece to that order, and this is what I will call a minimum fundamental because of everything that we talked about, EDCs, nutrient deficiencies, ends at amino acids. Which
hold on, just one more thing because don't let anybody fool you that vitamin D is bad. In fact, vitamin D is a hormone. And how? Because people don't explain that. So when vitamin D hits your skin, you have these receptors called 7-dehydrocholesterol that then carry cholecalciferol, which is vitamin D. And when it hits your liver, it converts into calcidiol, which is 25-hydroxy. When you see vitamin D 25-hydroxy in your blood, by that time is a hormone.
Correct.
So, but here's the catch. Vitamin D can't do its job without magnesium.
Correct.
You need good magnesium reservoirs for the vitamin D to do its job.
That's the relationship.
And then you need vitamin K to make sure that vitamin D is not calcifying within your arterial walls.
So the D typically comes with the K too.
For every 1,000 vitamin international use of vitamin D, there should be maybe 50 to 100, depending on who you're talking to, 100 mics of vitamin K.
So I had a point of frustration here just because I get sun an hour a day ish. I'm also doing the red light therapy.
But you lose these dehydrocholesterol receptors.
That must be what it is, because I'd go and get the test and my D is deficient. I'm like, how the fuck can my vitamin D
we lose everything
deficient?
as we age. So you're losing these receptors
you would get
you can't
skin
convert.
Cancer before you have great vitamin D levels from the sun just alone. You know, you'd get cancer.
So this is another essential supplement then.
Oh, 100%.
Because of what he just said, right? It becomes a hormone, so we're doing hormone replacement.
Got it.
You know, vitamin D is a hormone, not just a vitamin. And it needs magnesium in order to work. So that's the tight relationship, and that's why we're building right. We're setting the foundation. Now we're setting up the rebars. This is what we're doing. Right?
And then we're not going to get into this, but Carlos and me, for our high VIPs, we replaced vitamin D and K with something called SNP Nutrigenomics. I've sent it to you, but if you haven't paid attention, maybe you will now. SNP Nutrigenomics is a genetically tailored multivitamin that covers vitamin D, vitamin K, all the methylation support like trimethylglycerine, tetrahydromethylfolate, vitamin B12, vitamin B6, and among many other things. It's treating 103 genes. So you saw how the vitamin D needs magnesium. Okay, this is a much, much more comprehensive, complete package that's literally nourishing all the gaps and cracks within.
It tests for 103 genes. right, that have been confirmed by science,
Peer-reviewed,
long-term, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies to be genes, because you've always been told, oh, that's your genes, we can't do anything, you can't do anything about it. That's not true. We can affect the gene.
We can bridge over.
Yeah, like we can bridge over like MTHFR, right? Methylated vitamins. So these are the 103 genes that you have that they compound a formulation that is specific for you based on these genes that can be affected by nutritional supplementation, targeted. So you're not guessing, right? And this is where we found out that we have a vitamin D.
Don't guess test.
Yeah, don't guess test. So anyways, testosterone, magnesium, vitamin D, we end, and this is where we should start really, is amino acids. And we don't have a lot of time for this.
Yeah, we'll figure with amino acids, but then we'll just say which other ones. And then we'll go to
this is really important to me. This is really important to me because I think that this is one of the most misinformed concepts in all of health. All of it. So again, we're building the structure, right? So we start with the foundations, right? So we got, TRT, but TRT is a jackhammer at the construction site, right? But not everything is a nail, right? So this is where magnesium comes in, vitamin D, which is also a hormone. And then we end in amino acids. And this is a very important subject because I feel like this is the most misinformed subject in all of science, all of health, and it's been around forever. You've been told, how many times have you been told, Robert, where, hey, you need protein, right? You need to eat a lot of protein. Okay.
0.8 milligrams to 1.6 milligrams per kilogram.
And when you look at the science.
Per pound of body weight, sorry.
Again.
Of lean body mass.
Think about the protein industry. Just think about it for a second, right? And it's all sales and marketing, right? Because when you really look at the science, it's not protein that your body is after, right? So people, the typical question that I ask is like, hey, what do you think protein is good for? Most people are like, oh, muscle, recovery. I'm like, what if I told you that that's less than 1% of what protein actually does, right? So the distinction is not, I tell people all the time, did you know that protein, first of all, can be very easily converted by your body into sugar? Like meaning a steak can convert into pure sugar. It can.
And it's very insulinogenic.
Right.
Meaning
so
it's
out of the
spiking your insulin.
Out of the three macro, and look at you. So out of the three macronutrients, which is what anything that you put through your mouth converts into one of these three things, right? Proteins, carbs, or carbs, right? Protein, carbs, and fats. Carb, obviously, we know stimulates insulin the most. Well, guess what's a close second? Protein. Less than half or about half is fat, right? So I say to people, I'm like, that's the first scientific fact that you need to remember. Protein can be very easily converted into sugar. Please remember that. Actually, a lot of guys that come to us that do a lot of protein supplementation, guess where their hemoglobin A1C is? Above pre-diabetic conditions because of the amount of sugar conversion. And they're like, wait, but I don't eat any sugar. I'm like, you eat a lot of protein? Yeah.
Wow. Gluconeogenesis.
Right. So you do not need protein. Second scientific fact, but before I lose people, let me give you the distinction. It's not that your body needs protein. It's that your body needs to manufacture protein.
All protein is genetically foreign to the body until it's broken down into individual amino acids.
Your body needs to make protein. And so let's think about what does it need to make protein for? So your hair, your skin, right? Your bone density in the form of collagen proteins, right? Eyesight, keratin, thyroid production, thyroxine proteins, muscle, myosin, and actin proteins, but you also need it for everything
Growth
else.
hormone, insulin, melatonin, digestive enzymes, neurotransmitters, BDNF, melanopsin. The list is endless. We're a protein-producing machine.
You need hundreds of thousands of proteins manufactured per day. Actually, one of the hallmarks of aging is protein proteostasis.
Wow.
Right?
Loss of proteostasis.
Right, loss of proteostasis. So I always tell people, I'm like, let me ask you a question. So now that you've learned this, let me just kind of simplify this for you. Do you need to eat your hair in order to make more hair? No. Do you need to eat your toenails to make them stronger? No. It sounds ridiculous, right? Because we try to get people to connect to their common sense. So if you don't need hair to eat your hair in order to grow it, what makes people think that eating a chicken wing, a cow's ass, or a piece of fish is going to grow you more muscle? It just doesn't work this way. This is not human physiology. This is sales and marketing. It's not science.
So it's not true that you are what you eat.
Well,
no, you do become what you eat.
Right.
But a lot of them goes to waste.
Yeah. So, but why? Because hold on a second, Carlos. Protein's been at the center of the fitness industry for, 80 years. What are you saying? So here's why people tell you eat a lot of protein. Because when you look at the 3 macronutrients, right? Carbs, proteins, and fats, you have essentials. We don't have essential carbs because your body can make glucose from anything. Your body can liquefy your muscle and turn it into glucose.
That's what you call gluconeogenesis. You can convert glucose out of fat and muscle. But you leave the fat as last because the fat was designed for survival. Right. So it's going to break down the muscle.
More calories per gram.
More calories per gram, exactly. So, but when you look at the 3 macronutrients, you look at carbs, fats, and proteins. Proteins have the most amount of amino acids per square millimeter, if you want to call it that, than the other 2 food groups. And amino acids is how your body makes all of that, not just your muscles, but your hair, skin. I mean, you turn your skin over every single day. You need amino acids for that. You ever seen people that go on these weight loss programs and they lose their hair? Why? Because their body doesn't have amino acids to make hair, right? Because you've deprived it. So if you're gonna have a protein strategy and you're gonna be like chasing protein all the time, and guys like us, and for the history, it's like, we're concerned about muscle and we want to eat protein. It's amino acids that you need to be effective on, not protein, right? Protein becomes, when you have an amino acid ingestion like strategy, protein becomes an afterthought, right? It's kind of like an extra thing that you're adding to your whole nutrition plan.
This is supplementation.
Supplementation of the essential amino acids.
Supplementation. Okay.
Right. Not branching
amino acids, which turn into sugar.
Right.
It's the essential amino acids. So just kind of like, irreducible complexity, right? Like if I gave you a rifle without a trigger, you wouldn't be able to hit a target. Or if I gave you a guitar without strings, you wouldn't be able to play a melody. Unless you like bang on the on the guitar, like
or a boat without a propeller, you can't go fishing.
Yeah, all parts of a system need to be in place simultaneously in order for the system to have function. So the beautiful thing is that your body, as long as you give it the 8 essential aminos and their proper form and quality, your body can make the rest.
And let's just clarify this, because a lot of people say, "Oh no, it's 9 and there's only 20 amino acids." It's really 22 amino acids. 8 are essential. 14 are non-essential. The reason why nobody talks, they think 20, it's really 22, but 2 of them behave like special characters, like a question mark or an exclamation mark is only used for specific conditions by specific cells.
Okay.
But it's really 22 amino acids. Yeah.
This is the full amino acid spectrum that you hear people talk about. Like I've heard like rice plus beans. You get the whole thing.
You get the perfect combination of protein.
And this is why, like going back to ancestral living, right? Like think about the warriors of old. They spent days without food and they were jacked. I mean, they got all of their amino acids from the food that they were getting, right? Like that. Where today, going back to the thing that I was, when we're talking about nutrient deficiencies and food not being enough, I like to exaggerate the point a little bit. If we're talking about that we've lost 80% micronutrients in the ground, it's almost like, hey, no matter how pretty your food looks on your plate, even if it's organic, just consider that 80% of that is going to pleasure alone. Right? Whereas before we used to get 100% nutrient density. Now we're getting only 30% at best, right? That's why you need to eat a lot more food for your body to be satisfied. But when you put all of these ingredients into the body and your body is abundant, what does your body do? Your body doesn't throw a temper tantrum and say, hey, give me stuff. Your body only sends you the hunger response when you don't have enough. But when you put this in your body and you have enough and your body is abundant, your body stops begging you for shit.
So what does this look like? And I've had the amino acid supplements that you guys, I assume you guys drink. Yeah, the one I was drinking. Is it just drinking a lot of that every day?
So let me explain you something. Okay, just to touch base real fast on 10 grams of essential amino acids would be equivalent to a 4-ounce steak, which is about 30 grams of protein.
With no insulin response.
There's no insulin. And you don't need, because a lot of bodybuilders, like you got to spike insulin to get the protein inside the muscles. Not when it's essential amino acids. They go right in because they're in a pre-digested form. Right. So, for example, whole eggs have a 48% absorption rate. The rest becomes nitrogen and sugar. Urea, which is the waste product of breaking down protein. Then meat, poultry, and fish, roughly 26 to like 32%. Then vegan and whey products, 16% absorption or less. I'll get into that why. And then branched-chain amino acids, 1% or less, because there's only 3 amino acids.
Meaning you're only absorbing these amounts from the number that you're seeing on the label.
And everything else.
And we're gonna do a math. We're gonna do a little math for you right now because you're a math guy. I'm pretty bad doing it without my calculator, but you can do it for me real fast. But the point where because whoever's watching this, there's a lot of people that recommend whey protein. We don't consume whey protein, and I think it's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Why? Because they can talk all the shit they want, but you can go look up. This is a very well-established scientific term, which is called the net nitrogen utilization rate. So for every gram of protein, 16% of it is nitrogen. That's what makes carbohydrates, fats, and proteins different, that there's a nitrogen retention. So 16% of the net weight of every gram of protein is nitrogen. The name to the game is how much nitrogen you're retaining.
Right. Exactly.
So that's how they're able to measure the whole eggs have 48%, not white. The whole
thing,
eggs, 48%. When you take it apart and you just eat the white, it's roughly in the 16% range. So when we're talking about how much protein are you really getting, it's measuring the urea in your urine, which is the waste product of breaking down protein. So the name to the game is how much you're retaining.
Correct.
So because food, when people say you have to eat 0.8 grams of protein to 1.6, depending if you're an Olympic trainer or whatever, they say per pound of body weight, it's really per lean pound of body weight, because fat doesn't need protein.
But
Muscle needs protein
correct.
because it's amino acid derived, right? So if you times, for example, I have 100 pounds of lean muscle. If, let's just say, I'm getting it from, what is that math? If I'm getting it from whey protein,
At
you would have to,
16%.
at 16%, you would have to, the math is something in the 500
times 6. Yeah.
500 calories,
No,
just
500 grams.
500 grams of protein,
Good
which
luck with
multiplied by 4
So, yeah,
calories
if-
per gram, 2,000 calories a day
If
is
it's
just...
I'm a math guy. So if it's 100 pounds and you're only getting a 16% conversion, and you want 1 gram per pound, is that right?
for lean body weight. That's
Okay.
why
So you
I
got
weigh
100
I weigh
pounds lean body weight?
175. I'm not measuring off 175. I'm measuring 100 pounds because
Right.
that's how much lean body weight I have.
Right. So 100 pounds lean body weight divided by 16%.
There we
is
go.
Like
That's the math.
600
Yes.
grams.
There you go.
Thank
Which
you.
is a fuckload of protein.
Yeah.
Which is why bodybuilders who are famous for consuming this much, that's why they have these leaky gut, huge bellies because of this overconsumption of protein, which, by the way, you really only need like 50 grams from food. It's really the amino acids that your body's after. When you eat steak, when you eat chicken, when you eat like all this stuff, whey protein, I don't give a shit what it is. When you eat protein, your body doesn't give a shit what it is. It says, hey, what can I use here? Amino acids. Take it, the rest, flush it out.
And that's
And
why...
by the way, let me get some sugar because I could use that for calories. And you know what? Let me actually gobble up all this sugar because then I can convert it into fat just in case.
Right.
That's why I'm getting at least 20 to 30 grams of essential amino acid. Remember, 10 grams is equivalent roughly to 4-ounce steak, which is roughly 30 grams.
Yeah.
99% utilization rate because it's already in a pre-digested form.
Correct.
With no toxic waste. We're not thinking about the antibiotics or chemicals.
Yeah.
When we go out to eat restaurants, they're cooking with deodorized rancid oils. Like you're not really getting everything.
Dude,
with
you're
butter.
gut sensitive. You know, one of the things
you
is
have
you're
one of the
su-
most
you're-
complex
you're,
issues
You're
I got.
super gut
Well,
sensitive.
I'm actually in a much better place
No, you're-
recently,
yeah, yeah.
which thanks to the peptides, which I guess we could talk about.
Yeah,
but
correct. But what I'm saying is, but what I'm saying is,
the FMT. Well, that's another podcast by itself. But you think that that's you planted a new diverse amount of microbes that whatever you're doing is helping because you re-nourish the microbe diversity and density that you have.
Yes.
for sure.
Yes.
That's not rabbit
Yeah,
hole.
we're not gonna
But
go there. We're not gonna go
anyways,
there.
for anybody, please listening, man, it's not the protein chase. That's not where the game is at. It's the amino acid intake, the essential amino acid intake. That is crucial. That is crucial for life.
I hear what you guys are saying and all this. I guess my one concern still is like that doesn't sound. Obviously, we didn't have essential amino acid powders for the past 2 million years. So like, what is it about this supplement that's so important that's not consistent with our evolutionary biology?
Because we also had testosterone of 2,000, 2,500.
6,000.
And let me, testosterone naturally helps you retain more nitrogen.
Right.
Okay.
So the higher, that's why a steroid like nandrolone decanate is an anabolic drug so testosterone is an androgenic drug. It's an androgen drug. It can also be anabolic because it has growth.
Could you actually? What's
Yeah,
the
you can
difference
do
there?
both.
No, what's
No,
the
what's the
difference?
difference between
Androgenic
androgen-
and anabolic? I've heard of
Androgenic is
anabolic.
hoarse
not andro-
voice, masculine, erection. Like it's all the masculine traits of this that androgenics have.
Okay.
Anabolics is just growth.
Okay.
So nandrolone decanate, it increases protein synthesis, which testosterone does, but also collagen synthesis is why people say that their joints are lube, because they have more collagen synthesis around the articulation. So they have comfort, but more than anything else, it's really high on the nitrogen retention. That's why people get really big with nandrolone decanate, because it makes you retain more nitrogen.
Gotcha.
So
And
also
testosterone. I mean, one of the biggest things that you see initially in the first 6 weeks is erect.
We call it erect
muscles begin to grow, and you didn't even really change anything in your diet. Because you're retaining more, right?
Got it. Okay.
So,
But does that make sense? Because back in the days, we had a higher testosterone level. Obviously, we were eating raw carnivore diets.
Right.
Very different world.
Very different world. I guess if you didn't want to drink the amino acid powder, you could just take a ton of testosterone and get a similar effect.
Well, that's also
a ton of meat, but you know,
that's not. It's a balance, right?
Yeah.
Because Carlos and I, we don't, dude. He takes it to another extreme. He has a liquid smoothie every day, right? And it has maybe 600 calories, and then he eats dinner, which possibly has, I don't know, 1,000 to 1,500
and
calories.
I feel fantastic, man.
And we retain, as you can see, we have muscle. It's because we compensate for the testosterone with the essential amino acids, and everything else is holding the structure together. Otherwise, if we would be sick and not looking as good as we are, or feeling as good as we are, right?
Yeah.
So for anybody listening, man, like if you never heard from me again, just know that you have massive nutrient deficiencies. And if I was gonna, if you and I were told that the apocalypse is coming, we're gonna ride in that truck and we could get one supplement, lifetime supply, it would not be testosterone, it'd be amino acids, man.
In this
That's
world,
what I would take.
In today's world.
In today's world, that's what I would take, because that makes everything.
You're reducing toxicity. You're reducing so many different things.
Right? That's how important this thing is.
So we came kind of full circle. That is the most essential raw material to everything.
Because
we are made of protein.
And we don't retain protein.
No, because you need to make protein
make
for
it every
everything.
That's what
day.
I'm saying. Like you are, the life is a protein producing process.
We're a protein producing manufacturing machine.
Yes. Got it.
So if I was going to pick one, it'd be that. So, this is what ends tier 1 for us. It's like, listen, man, you want to have, for very little money, like a transformational effect with just, by the way, I did the math the other day, like for 3 months supply of this stuff, it's no more than $650 at most.
We're talking about.
Well, no, tier 1.
Testosterone?
Oh, you're talking about the whole thing. Yeah.
Oh,
Magnesium,
for like 3 months.
vitamin D, and amino acids.
Like,
3 month supply.
Yeah.
$630.
So 200-ish bucks a month to transform
And
your
you will
life.
get way more out of that than any peptide.
And that's why when people call us about peptide, we're like, dude,
What the hell?
let's fix this first.
Yeah.
Let's make sure this is in place before I talk about peptides.
And this is a different ingredient down the road, but I love that we're going to touch on wealth. This is how I like to think about it, because most of us, right, will focus on building muscle. We want to make muscle. And it's like saying, okay, so you want to make more money. But let me ask you a question. Are you interested in making money, or are you interested in wealth? What are you interested in? Because if you're interested in about wealth, then tell me what wealth manager will only advise you to make more money. That's not a strategy. That's not a wealth manager. A wealth manager is going to tell you two things. You need to make money, invest, but also retain. You need to have a tax strategy so that you retain more of what you're making.
Sure.
So I can get your body at 45 or 50 to make muscle just as efficient and just as effective as a 25-year-old. Science has shown this. This is not like esoteric. But
And this is how you reduce that accelerated rate of entropy, because as we get older, we're no longer building as fast as we're breaking down. Meaning, from the moment you're born, you're dying.
Yeah.
But you're going up. Once you hit 20, some things start to go down. By the time 30, 15% per decade you lose of your growth hormones. So now we start breaking down faster than we can rebuild. And what he's saying is, scientifically, we can get you back to building faster than you're breaking down. And now you slow down that rate of accelerated rate of entropy.
yeah, but going just one step back is, I can get your body to make muscle like a 25-year-old, but you're still going to be breaking it down like a 50-year-old. So you're making $100,000 a year. Great. You're spending 105, 108, 112. And so literally you're in debt, right? And so I don't care who you are, but after 30, we begin to break down muscle, right? Yeah, I've never seen a 95-year-old with bulgy muscles, right? So because we start to lose muscle, right? I don't care who you are, I don't care what kind of drugs you are. So the strategy is, if we both make $100,000, you you pay 30% tax bracket, I pay 8%. Who's richer? So the name of the game when you're trying to, I want to make more muscle. Great, I can do that for you. Are we going to talk about retaining muscle? You have to have a muscle building and a muscle retention strategy. If not, then you're just chasing your tail, right? So that's when we're going to get into myostatin inhibition. Right.
I was trying to think of what the term was because we've talked about it before.
Myostatin inhibition. So
these things catabolize muscle. What's the term? They're actually breaking down muscle.
So there's an interrogative sign within the science, but we don't know which one comes first. Like, is it after 30 I begin to break down muscle and myostatin goes up in the body? Or is it after 30, myostatin goes up and then my muscle starts breaking down? So it's a catalyst for breaking down muscle. We just don't know the order. And people have seen the pictures of the Belgian blues, right? These humongous bulls that look like bodybuilders.
Right.
These are genetically, and I only bring the picture to mind because these are genetically modified bulls to have zero myostatin. They don't have it.
They just add muscle forever.
So they just add muscle and it's kind of cruel because they die from the weight. They die from weakness, right?
Yeah.
But so we need myostatin, right? Myostatin. If you were thrown in an island for 30 days with no food, your body would liquefy muscle, gluconeogenesis, to keep you alive. So we need a certain amount of myostatin. We just want to inhibit it because the acceleration, what he was talking about, right? So you got to have a muscle preservation strategy, right?
Got it.
So you cover this. I mean, you would get sensational results in comparison to 95% of Americans.
And by the way, that whole myostatin as well, there's a very crucial pathway within the myostatin called, we have a product that downregulates something called the ubiquitin proteasome pathway. So ubiquitin is basically, it tags damaged proteins, and the proteasome is like a paper shredder. So you need to remember, I said, as long as you're breathing, you have cell turnover rate. So you got to clean up the system. You got to shred these broken down proteins through autophagy, fasting, all these things. But that loss of proteostasis, the machinery starts to collapse, and now you start building up toxic waste in the system, and that's what can lead to tumors, senescent cells.
So we're almost at peptides.
We won't even get into tier 2 or tier 3, which we can leave that for another time. But
tier 2. So that's tier 1, and then we say, okay, now that you've managed
for your follow up.
Now that you manage this, okay, and depending on the age, like if you're on pre-40, you can get away with tier 1. Anything over 40. Tier 2 becomes an essential because everything that I'm about to talk to you about, you lose by over 50%. You don't just lose testosterone, you lose a bunch of these other nutrients. So, but tier 1 will get you far ahead, right? So we say, hey, listen, instead of me sending you $15,000 worth of shit that you're going to be overwhelmed by, why don't you show me that you can master these 3 things? Just master these 4 things, 4 things, and watch what you can get with these 4 things. And you will be mind blown. And then once you're mind blown and you see your levels, now you can trust me on the job that we're going to do with peptides, which becomes a lot more precise, a lot more intricate, right? So then we talk about tier 2, which is, nitric oxide. I mean, it's hard to put a value on nitric oxide and amino acids because every major disease known to man starts with a nitric oxide deficiency. And what's really funny to me to kind of emphasize on this nutrient deficiency thing that we're suffering through is doctors get less than 1 hour of nutrition education in medicine. Yet
we had one on yesterday, and he said, it's
like 2 hours. It's really 2 hours.
It's fucking nuts,
and it's not even accurate.
It's not even accurate. Yet like most doctors have always said, Robert, you need to eat your leafy green vegetables, right? And it's like, why? What is it that my body is extracting from these leafy green vegetables that is so useful to me? I mean, there's vitamins, minerals, and that stuff. Then you have fiber. But the number 1 asset to leafy green vegetables is nitric oxide. It's not in the ground anymore.
The nitrates convert to nitrate, and then you get nitric
oxide. It's not in the ground
production
anymore. We have to give it to you. So the statistics shows, and Dr. Nathan Bryan, we love him. He's our friend. He's our chief scientific officer on our IRB. Man in the world that has the most amount of research on nitric oxide. He established, after 40, you've lost over 50% of your nitric oxide.
Wow.
Nitric oxide is delivering oxygen through the system. So imagine losing 50% of your breathing power. What happens? If I'm a tree and I lose 50% of my oxygen or my breathing power, I don't die, but I wither. Right? So you've gone from I-95 and delivering nutrients and oxygen to the system, your brain, your heart, your dick, everything, to a 1-lane road. Right.
Wow.
So you need to address.
Meaning your blood vessels begin to collapse. You don't move enough blood flow. You don't pump. You pump. Your cardiovascular system represents 3% of your body weight, yet is responsible for getting you 100 100,000 gallons of oxygen per day, 2,000 gallons of blood moving throughout your body, over 100,000 times beating your heart. And what actually does it is the nitric oxide molecule, right? Wow. And without it, you can't function. Needless to say that most people don't think about that. One of the contributor signalers to get stem cells out of bone marrow relies crucially on nitric oxide.
Crucially.
And if you don't have the proper nitric oxide saturation, you do not get stem cell signaling to get out and repair your body.
And before you go out and run nitric, go and buy nitric oxide, there's only
99%
one product that you should get.
Let's be fair. There's only 2 products that work out there. Here's the crazy part. Most nitric oxide products are L-arginine and L-citrulline based. Check this out. L-arginine is a precursor to nitric oxide, but in order for it to bridge into nitric oxide, you need the NOS enzyme, nitric oxide synthase enzyme. The problem is by the time we turn 40, it completely collapses. So it's like putting gas into a burnt engine. Doesn't work. And then L-citrulline is a byproduct from the production of nitric oxide.
But if you don't have nitric oxide in the first place,
that's somebody who wants. So if you ever have a supplement that says L-arginine and L-citrulline,
throw it away.
It's somebody who doesn't understand science. You should throw it away. Then the next,
by the way, 99.99999% of pre-workout products have this L-citrulline, or arginine, and this is what they bank on, and it's worthless.
So there's a very special place called the farm at Okefenokee. It's a 1,000-acre regenerative farm community about 45 minutes northwest of Jacksonville, Florida. The farm is a completely off-grid community. It has total food, water, and energy independence. Everything on the farm is 100% organic, and it even features wild boar and bear hunting. The farm at Okefenokee is right next to the Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge, where you can do camping and canoeing tours. So if you're like me and you're interested in the self-sovereign lifestyle, then you can get your own lot on the farm at Okefenokee if you tell them that I sent you. Once you get a lot, you can build one of 3 custom cabin options. So if you value freedom, self-sovereignty, and living in touch with nature, then join me and my family. We have lot number 21, and we're going to be building a cabin there starting December 2025. To learn more about the farm at Okefenokee, go to okefarm.com and make sure to tell them that I sent you. So the one that you guys have me taking is
the losenge.
The lozenges,
which is
magnesium.
Only,
I think.
Well, it has elemental magnesium, but it's Dr. Nathan Brown is the only guy that's figured out how to make a solid form base of a nitric oxide gas, because this is a gas. And so there's a lot of products out there. There's a couple of legitimate companies that give you a nitric oxide product that helps your body produce.
Yeah, so it's based on nitrates. They're nitrate-based products. So you take the nitrates, your body converts to nitrites, it hits the stomach acid, and you get nitric oxide. But the problem if you take mouthwash, which kills 99% of what? Bacteria. The very bacteria you need to produce nitric oxide. You take antibiotics and you take proton pump inhibitors like an anti-acid. You have completely wiped out the mechanism for your body to produce nitric oxide. So if you want to skip all of that, because we've all had damage, Nathan Bryan's, our buddy's nitric oxide, you synthesize nitric oxide, whether you're taking the 3 together, you will make nitric oxide for a couple of hours. That's why you want to pulse it twice a day, sometimes even twice a day. Like on a meeting like this, you can take one.
Yeah. So
amazing.
Nitric oxide, then we go down the road and, let's not get into the details, except for the NAD portion. Omega-3s, clinically been shown to reduce triglycerides, which is, one of the things that give you heart attacks. And it's about metabolic flexibility of the cell. It's kind of like the oil, the lube, as we become older, a little baby is super pliable. As we become older, we're rigid. Our cells, that happens to our cells. So
the bilipid layer of the cell, right?
Yeah. So that's made out of phospholipids and
So when our cells become like rigid like that, it's harder for them to accept nutrients, but more importantly, to expel waste. So it's kind of like your cells are walking around constipated.
So what happens is, first of all, you got to think of omegas like the oil that lubes our engine. So just like a car needs an oil change, and you don't feel the oil change, but it does give you more mileage on the gallon, and it does preserve the engine. Our bodies need omegas. Just like essential amino acids, we have essential fatty acids. So we need to get them from the outside in. So the ratio that you're supposed to get is a 3-to-1 ratio omega-6 to omega-1s. The problem is that today it's 20 some, there's different estimates, but it's roughly 20 to 1.
20 to 1.
So we have completely damaged the integrity of our cells, causing supraphysiological inflammatory responses that perpetuate chronic loading, great inflammation that translate into poor metabolic flexibility, meaning the outer layer of the cell doesn't have the proper flexibility to let because it's the guardrails.
So the 20 to 1 is our ratio, like internal to the body?
No, it should be a 3 to 1.
3 to 1.
Right.
But instead of 20 to 1, because we eat too many omega-6, we eat too many processed
oils.
So the cells are rigid and inflamed, so nothing can come in, really, and nothing can come out. And then the phospholipid layer, which is phosphatidylcholine, and then I forget the second one, but it's a complex form. But phospholipids, it's called genetic crosstalk material for your mitochondria to communicate with the nucleus, which is what's transcribing the RNA and then leading to proteins, metabolism, and so on. It relies on a couple things, but the major thing is phospholipids. And if you don't have healthy phospholipid within the integrity of the membrane, and especially the only basically structure that has a double layer of fat is mitochondria. It has an outer lipid and an inner lipid. So SS31 rebuilds the cardiolipin, which is the inner structure, which is where the complex 1 through 4 of the electron transport chain takes place, so you can produce and pass more electrons through that assembly line and produce more ATP.
Right.
Okay, so you mentioned a peptide there.
Finally, we hear one.
We've got 25 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if maybe we should leave to part 2, because it's like I feel like we're doing a disservice to people.
You guys take it whatever order you want to go in. Honestly, we can do part 2. Of course. So I'll leave it to you. But there is a big hunger out there. People want to know what the fuck these peptides are.
Well, man, let's leave them at the edge of their seat. You should be at the edge of the seat, because I think it's a disservice to just jump into peptides to give you what you want when you don't even understand why you want what you want.
A lot of foreplay.
Yeah. Listen, and like that's how the conversation started. Like we're not. Here's the value of what we provide. I think we're not influencers. We're not your average biohacker that doesn't see patients. We have been doing this behind the scenes in clinic with patients, repeated labs for years. We've managed their progress. Like, we have been doing this in the ditches, in the trenches every day from a clinical perspective. And so when we're talking about longevity, you have to be really fucking careful because most people will focus on performance. When you focus on performance, you will burn longevity. So our job is to teach you how to dance between the two, so that not only can you perform, but you can perform for a very long time. That's the value. And so
it's the ultimate Rubik's Cube challenge. How do I improve health span along life expectancy?
And we want to teach you our big mission in life is we want to teach you the stuff so that you don't become subject to sales and marketing and just you learn how to use them. At some point, we're more than happy, like, take the training wheels off and go. I always tell people, I'm like, look, dude, when we're talking about peptides, that's like Formula One shit, okay? I'm going to let you drive the car really, really fast. But I will be damned if I let you drive this car without your seatbelt and your helmet. You're not going to do it here. You're going to wear your seatbelt, you're going to wear your helmet, and you're going to go really fucking fast, and we're going to teach you how to drive. But you got to go with safety first, because if not, it's worthless. Right? So,
makes sense.
So for us, like, it's like, hey, you want peptides to work? You want to get the most ROI on your peptide? You got to have these materials.
You can't leave this out.
You got to have these materials, because the peptide is basically going to go to this. Let's talk about it really quickly. Let's give it let me give them a little something, right? Let's talk about thymosin alpha 1, which is an amazing immunological
20 amino acid.
It's an amazing. It was one of our favorite.
Which
peptides.
we'll get eventually into half-lives. It's very important to understand half-lives, how to time these things.
Place time. You get sick, you get injured, whatever. Some people know it as TB500, right? It's really stimulating a gland in your body called the thymus gland, which is responsible for a lot of really important shit, right? So if you get a cut or whatever, or you get a virus, thymosin alpha 1 is literally going to get on the loudspeaker in your body and say, guys, I know you guys are busy doing your own shit, but hey, we got a virus in the system. This Robert got cut. We need to go fix it. So I need everybody to recruit and go there and fix it. And if the cells are discombobulated, deficient, and they show up like tired, they're like, hey man, I don't have materials to repair. The peptide doesn't do anything. And so people are literally flushing money down the toilet, and that's what breaks our hearts. Not to mention that we also see a lot of people get hurt with these peptides, especially like the tersepatides and you can really fuck your system up if you don't know what you're doing. I've had tons of people that have lost the weight, but then they're in their 50s and they've lost 30-40% of their muscle mass, which is catastrophic.
Yeah.
It is far easier.
Muscle is
Hard to
universe.
build muscle.
It's far
It's a
easier to
longevity
lose
currency.
fat and drop weight than to build muscle, man.
Sure.
Especially if you've lost it, and especially after a certain age.
Yeah.
You know, and then so what are you gonna do? You're gonna get into testosterone. So you're doing it in reverse.
Yeah, no, if your mitochondria are inflamed, the integrity of the cell is dysfunctional. Like you're not getting anything really in. So yeah, the thing is signaling, but you're not getting nutrients in. So what results are you gonna get?
Yeah. And so I would say, once we go omega-3, then we go to
So
NAD.
wait, the final part of omegas is the studies show that having optimal omega levels have been shown to associated to an increase in 5 years of lifespan and a 90% reduction in sudden cardiac death. And ironically, non-smokers with low levels of omegas had similar lifespans with smokers, but with high omega-3 levels. And omegas have been shown to improve muscle protein synthesis. You're talking about 4 grams or above. Eye health, gut health, cardiovascular health, neuroprotective. I mean, again, it's what makes it. If I had to pick between phospholipids and omegas, I pick omegas because you need the omegas for the phospholipids are like a subtype of fat, right?
it.
But they're critical for that genetic crosstalk material, that genetic material crosstalk that I'm talking about between the nucleus of your cells and your mitochondria. Just so you understand, inside a cell, if you zoom in, we have 70 organs, 78 depending on the definition of an organ. But inside of your cells, you have about 13 little parts, right? Little organ
Organelles.
systems.
Organelles.
Organelles.
What you have the mitochondria, you have the lysosome, you have an endoplasmic reticulum. So you have a packaging center for protein. You have another packaging center for fats. Then you have the delivery trucks. Then you have the cleanup group. Then you have the paper shredder. You have all these systems. The cytoskeleton, which holds the whole integrity of the cell, right? There's a whole life in there, and this is why we like to say we are a cellular health and longevity medical practice. Because if you optimize those little organ systems, if you zoom in and you optimize that, when you zoom out, everything else is going to work better.
Sure.
So the point is, you have to go down to that level, because if the inner machinery at the nuclear little power plants called mitochondria are not properly working and they're inflamed, and then the cleanup crew is not working and you're not properly packaging, you got a dysfunctional manufacturing machine. So how are you supposed to produce anything if the cell is not properly working?
And now you're sending a communication to this dysfunctional factory. Hey, produce more, faster. I need more. And
Fuck you. Fuck you. So this is why the omegas, instead of just, I'm taking omegas.
Supplementation or food or both?
Both.
Okay.
Both. Because most foods, unless when we go out to eat right now, watch, we're going to take that little card I gave you.
Yeah.
You can't eat 95% of the menu.
Okay.
At every restaurant.
I don't
even
give a
5
fuck if
stars.
it's a 7-star restaurant. 95%
Yeah.
of the menu you're not going to eat, because we'll see. We'll play with it.
I'm excited to see. We're going to a nice place.
So the point is, I'm taking omegas. Unless you actually test the intracellular level, we interviewed Dr. Bill Harris, who is a world-renowned, 43 years studying.
45 at this point.
45 at this point, studying omegas.
45 years.
He does a finger prick test because you have cell turnover rate every 4 months of red blood cells. So what you find in one red blood cell, it's not like, okay, this one is going to have this level and this other red blood cell is going to have this level. What you find in one red blood cell is going to be across the board. So by defining how much you have, which is a percentage, 8 to 12%, you want to be between, average American is about 4%.
Wow.
So you want to be between 8 and 12%. And now we know if you're in that range, we know there's flexibility to the cell.
And now the cell is robust, right? Now it's like, okay, now I can do work.
Right.
Now I can go work out,
Yeah.
right? Don't expect me to run a marathon when I'm like starving to death and dehydrated.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do very well,
Right.
right? So
This is it's reducing their rigidity, right? So they become more
yes,
flexible, more malleable.
And so
Yeah,
because we were on the subject of mitochondria, then the next step, and I think that
NAD is the next one?
Yeah, we'll end on this one just because of the sake of time. And I think that
we might be able to get the electrolyte. We're done.
Well, electrolytes and NAD. I think if you end here,
We'll give them a little peptide piece, just a little piece.
NAD is not a peptide?
no, what?
No.
So,
okay, I didn't know
so if you end from where we started to here in terms of the nutrients and resources that you need to put back into your body, now you're increasing your ROI on that peptide dramatically, exponentially. Okay, so then we talk about NAD, which NAD produces ATP. Is the and you have these, and it's funny, right? Like you are a complex system of everything that makes you, Robert. Your hair, your beautiful hair, skin, your everything that makes you, ideas, all this stuff, right? It's a complex network of over 35 trillion cells, 40 trillion cells, whatever, depending on who you talk to. In every single one of those cells, you have these tiny energy producing factories called mitochondria, right? They power everything. So when you extract them, if you were to extract mitochondria from your body, they make about 10% of your body weight. Yeah, they're responsible for 95% of your energy production, meaning not the energy to go work out and pump weights, the energy that it requires for you to pay attention during podcasts, breathe
your
while
brain,
you sleep,
your heart,
power your heart
everything.
100,000 times a day without you
They're
noticing.
the nuclear
all
power
these
plants,
things, right?
Yeah.
You don't have energy if you don't have mitochondria.
And so going back to the original, like I preface this, when you're young, you have a really high level of NAD and you have no demand. Then the dynamic flips. You're in your mid-age, NAD level drops, and so now your cell is completely deficient. So do you think that your body, your cells, when you have a lot more demand and less revenue or less resources, do you think your body is going to be more concerned with how fast your hair grays or pumping your heart 100,000 times a day without you noticing? Do you think it's going to be more concerned with how efficient it is at lipolysis and burning fat or keeping the lights on?
Yeah.
Right? So this is where it's like, hey, we need to feed our mitochondria. And so there's a lot of NAD plus, injections. And it's like, it's missing the point, right? Because you need to feed it. And what we found based on the research is that there's only one compound to really feed the mitochondria.
Well, before you get into feeding the mitochondria, just let me give more context on mitochondria. We have 37 mitochondria genes with thousands of functions. And the average amount of mitochondria, depending on the intensity of that organ system, is between 500 and 2,000 mitochondria per cell. You have 40 trillion of these. Make that math.
It's a number
There's estimated that we have over roughly 100,000 trillion cells. I think it's 100 quadrillion is a number.
Wow.
100,000 trillion. You produce your body weight in ATP production every day in your cells. 25% of the volume space of your cells is mitochondria. So if the mitochondria are dysfunctional, then what are we talking about here? Because mitochondria is ultimately the universal currency of energy production. So why are we talking about mitochondria? Because in order to generate mitochondria, you need NAD in the process. Now, here's the problem: because of aging and nutritional and the process of aging and the environmental toxins and high sugar loads and stressful situations. What else? Sleep deprivation, lack of exercise. All these things start to wear and tear your cells. So you don't, as he said, you don't produce the same amount of NAD. And as you don't produce the same amount of NAD, your cells need it in order to produce ATP, which is a universal energy currency of energy. It's the dollar. It's the dollar of the system, right? So if your cells are not getting that, then you're not outputting the proper energy production in your body. That's why when you look at a little kid, a 5-year-old, they don't run out of energy because they're just producing fucking nonstop mitochondria and their system is properly working.
Yeah.
So before we get into what works, here's where people get caught up. NAD. We need NAD.
That's what you want. That's what you want.
People are injecting NAD. Yeah. We interviewed Dr. Sandra Kaufman, who wrote the Kaufman Longevity Protocol. She is, look her up. She's freaking, I bow down to her. She knows her shit, but even her is still confuzzled, still confusing the topic. But there's 5-step precursors to NAD. NAD,
Dr. Jim too, who has a PhD on just NAD.
He has like 400 peer-reviewed studies.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Which we use, don't guess, test. We use this test. But even testing there's a test that ultimately, you want to know ultimately how well is your mitochondria working. So on the NAD test, we're good, but my mitochondria, we're in one of the tops, but it's still not optimized. So you can have fully saturated, perfect levels of NAD.
Meaning you have gas, great gas, but the car.
But what is
has
it translating to?
Exactly.
Because it could be inflammation. You're low omegas. It's not just taking this thing and having good levels. This is what I mean. The complexity of longevity and performance is very complex. The point is that you got 5-step precursors. You have tryptophan, then it converts into nicotinic acid, then it's niacinamide, then there's nicotinamide riboside, then there's nicotinamide mononucleotide, and now you get NAD. And NAD is the molecule that we need.
You're
But
like
NAD,
you're like a poet of biology.
Yeah.
and then NAD is the molecule that we need, but it's too big to penetrate the cellular membrane and get inside and cause
Meaning
the
the
effect.
mitochondria are inside of the cell. NAD is what we want. But when you inject NAD, the molecule that you're injecting is too big to actually penetrate the space. So it doesn't really, honestly, it doesn't really do anything. Now, there are some studies that suggest that, peripherally, because it stays peripherally, there are some studies that suggest, it could be for neurological deficiencies or someone who had like blunt head trauma,
TBI, traumatic brain injury.
TBIs. It could
Do IV of
could
NAD,
work,
it could be good for the brain cells.
systemically.
Wow.
But when you want it, where do you want it? Essentially, you want the mitochondria to suck it up, and so it has to penetrate the intracellular space. So, in contrast, niacinamide is very, very small. So it goes in, but it leaks out. So the mitochondria are unable to gather it. So you would have to take elephant doses of niacinamide. Yeah. So what works is doing the first step precursor, which is small enough to penetrate the cell, but big enough to remain in the cell. And so the mitochondria use it, boom, you get your gas. So
Now,
Anti-NAD plus.
no.
Okay.
No, so
Okay.
based on everybody we've ever interviewed, I think nobody still knows, but what we learned from Dr. Sandra Kaufman, NAD injectable intravenously can be used by your neurons. NMN, I forgot. NMN can be used by the retina of your eye. NR can be used by certain organs. Niacinamide can be used for certain things. So it's almost like, okay, you want to make a supplement that has all of them. It's like saying when people say they take vitamin C, they're really taking ascorbic acid, which is like one piano key of the keyboard. You're not taking the whole bioflavonoid. You want to take the whole spectrum. That's what my intuition is telling me from everything I've learned, that you want to take the whole spectrum. Now, wait, one more thing, because people are, oh no, NR. Some people say nicotinamide riboside is better than nicotinamide mononucleotide. Well, based on David Sinclair and some other people, they did studies pound per pound, like they compared NR versus NMN, and they showed that the response with NMN was greater than NR in regards to performance. So rat studies showed there was a 400% improvement in performance with NMN. What was it? The rats ran like a quarter mile. They were like 70-year-old equivalent rats. Yeah. And they can only run a quarter mile, but when given NAD for 14 weeks until it's saturated, they can run up to like 2 miles. And then
so it's just a lot for a mouse.
Yeah, like improvement in longevity and all these things. So NAD has its place in its time. So we take NMN, which is the precursor, which is the last step precursor to NAD.
Got it.
Right? So that one actually penetrates inside of the cell and actually can make NAD. And I'm not going to get into this, but we're just starting to learn this. All injectable NAD is NAD plus, which is highly reactive and it can be oxidative.
Very oxidative.
What you need to refine it. It's like taking folate versus tetrahydromethylfolate, which is the refined form of folate, because folate can be toxic, right? So what's the point on that?
The NAD plus, but what you want is
you want NADH.
Right.
Okay.
So NAD plus, this is chemistry 101, and I'm not the best chemist ever, but I did learn that NADH is ultimately what your cells need to generate ATP. Because remember, NAD is it supports in the mitochondria to produce more electrons, and this is where methylene blue comes in as well. And I know you've had what's his name?
Jack Cruz.
Paul Saladino talking about that your brain turns blue. That has been only shown with IVs at you're talking about 200-300 milligrams. I'm talking about there's multiple randomized clinical trials, which is pretty silver standard of studies showing that anywhere from 0.5 milligrams to 2 milligrams per kilogram is in the safe zone. We go even lower. We take like 0.25 milligrams every other day because it could build up, because methylene blue is lipophilic. Like vitamin D is lipophilic, meaning it's sucked up by fat, so you can retain it and it can build up.
Yeah.
So methylene blue is something that does help in the process. It's not going to turn your brain blue, because you have to take IV doses in very high amounts.
Yeah.
We can get there later.
but just so we don't use the NAD.
So now we know the NAD. There's a spectrum.
And I do. We also
Let me
do,
give you the 5-minute warning.
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
So what we do also, because again, to cover like the spectrum, it's like, okay, so if my neurons like NAD, how do I get them? Right in there? So we use an intranasal NAD product, because it crosses the blood-brain barrier into the neurons, where the neurons are like, yes, this is what we want, right? So it's a much better delivery system, which you can't get through injectable because it doesn't cross, right? So that's important. And then from that, I mean, we can really like just segue, just to give a little teaser. This is where SS31 is amazing and one of our favorite peptides, because it's like, okay, I can give you food and and obviously give you life and maintenance, but you're old and you're older and you're getting older. You have a lot of wear and tear, right? So what SS31 does is it's kind of like Miguel has a great saying. It's like, look, imagine wearing a T-shirt for 30 years, right? And washing it and washing it and washing it. That T-shirt's going to look very flimsy, but imagine putting something on it that when you get it out of the dryer, it's now brand spanking new. And so SS31 kind of regenerates the mitochondria. So there's a difference
It regenerates a unique lipid membrane, which is the inner membrane called the cardiolipin, which is what keeps it compressed. Remember, there's a lot going on. There's that whole complex chain, the proton pumps, moving electrons. That starts to lose its integrity, and now the engine. It's like an engine. It starts to break down after years.
So it can have gas,
so it rebuilds
still,
that cardiolipin, so it's nice and sturdy. So it's like the engine never ages.
So you can put gas in your car, but it has wear and tear. So imagine doing something so like your car is now brand spanking new, right? And that's kind of, just as an analogy, that's kind of why SS31 is such an exciting peptide now, because you're not only feeding the mitochondria, but you're also regenerating.
To caveat, most people need to take MOTS-C in the beginning with it, because I'm not going to get into it for next time. But you want to take
peptide.
A mitochondrial peptide. You want to take MOTS-C and then or you can take them together. There's no exact science, but if your mitochondria are damaged and you got inflammation, you want to start with MOTS-C and then lead to the SS31.
But listen, because we have 3 minutes, I just want to leave it so that we segue. And here's where, like, I think
let me just say the electrolytes. Let me just say the electrolyte
you
real
need
fast.
to go quick.
No, the electrolyte. I need to fit, because that's the last one from our
whatever.
From our tier 2. That's tier 3 already.
Tier 2.
We finished tier 2. Just tier 3, we combine tier 3. Now we're peptides. But peptides we put in there, and again, in reality, you should have them all from the beginning, but we tier them because you can't give too much, because people get overwhelmed. So now we're in tier 3. We have electrolytes, secretopin, and peptides. And then within the peptides, you can have the Akkermansia muciniphila if you're taking GLP-1s. There's a couple things. But let's just say secretopin, which is a product that nourishes all growth hormone, because we just think of IGF-1, but there's IGF-2, there's IGF-BP1 all the way to 7, and it has all its other benefits. The point is that electrolytes, why are they so important? I don't know anybody or any other product and I'm not going to say to whoever does it, I'm not even going to give the name right now, but well, actually, there's no point, because we're going to finish with electrolytes. We use quintin. So it's an electrolyte that's extracted from the south of France and Italy, where it's like 30 meters before the sea. There's like a whirlpool, a current there, where the phytoplankton and the zooplankton, which are like the jellyfish, the krill, all of that, when it eats the phytoplankton, it creates a metabolic fertile of all the, how to say, Baja salt, sea salt, Himalayan salt. This is another rabbit hole we've gone into that we learned. For us, there is no ultimate better electrolyte than quintin, because it has 78 ionic charged minerals in their perfect proportion. So you have minerals and trace elements, which are like micro minerals, but it's in their perfect proportion, which matches. So they have two products. They have the isotonic and the hypertonic. The hypertonic doesn't match the osmotic concentration of your blood. But if you do sauna, if you're outside and you sweat a lot, you take the hypertonic to nourish the cells and put electricity back into the system. That's why
exactly
they're called
what it does.
electrolytes.
If you're going to extract like what he's saying, or just like a nugget, it just, now that you put all the components, The electrolytes basically plug you into the wall, and now you get electricity through the
Nothing
system.
works unless you have electricity.
Now you now you have the power plant powered, right, and now you're ready to receive. So because we're ending here, now that we're going to get into peptides, here's what I want to say to people. So maybe
let me just say that electrolyte one thing. I don't know any other electrolyte. This is what I'm going to say. This one wins. I don't care what Gary Breckoff, all of you guys say out there. You show me an electrolyte that you can shoot up intravenously. I'm not telling anybody to do that. That's what I do. I shoot up this stuff intravenously with saline solution. I put a quinton isotonic. The reason
regularly you do that?
Well, how about this? No. This is an electrolyte. Just to give you an idea, this is an electrolyte, and this is why it's so dramatic. And this was considered medicine in Europe in the 1600s. There's a guy by the name René Quinton. He did a few. He did a ton of different scientific studies.
The product invented in 1897. Just
two that are incredible. One of them, he took three dogs, right?
6 dogs.
Well, most of them were healthy. 2 of them were sick, I believe. He did it, in France, in the university. People were watching. He took the dogs. He bled them.
Took all the blood out.
Took all their blood out, and then hooked them up and put this electrolyte, which is just
seawater.
Put it into their bloodstream. Every single dog got up and walked off.
No, they recovered. The 6 dogs, they all had something, but they recovered. Then they did that same study twice, 2 in America, 1 in Spain, I think. They replicated, and they had the same exact result. It was used for tuberculosis. It was used for many different diseases.
It was considered medicine until Big Pharma took over.
And dude, there's a lot of conspiracy. When we interviewed Robert Slovak, which is a 50-year water scientist, he's the one that invented the molecular hydrogen tablets, brought deuterium depleted. This guy is freaking smart as hell.
He commercialized the reverse osmosis system. He didn't invent it, but he commercialized it.
Of course. But the point is, this is the man who we learned the electrolytes from. And because from his science and understanding the science of what so remember, they have the hypertonic and then the isotonic. The isotonic matches the osmotic concentration of blood, meaning it has the same exact ratios of what makes the concentration of what's inside the blood. So sometimes I actually even mix peptides with it and I inject it because remember, the best carrier, the more electrolytes. Yeah, no, I've done it. I don't recommend people to do intravenously, but you can do like sub-Q. Like instead of using bacteriostatic water, it could develop bacteria.
You don't keep it in the bottle. You do it.
I do a little bit of basically bacteriostatic water, which has benzoyl alcohol in it, but then I do.
So you can drink it or use it as a peptide mix.
Yes. Well, this is anecdotal. We're not saying anybody.
Please don't try this at home.
This is me, Machiavellian. This is just us being completely pioneers in this stuff, right? But the point is, nothing, no NAD, no mitochondria will work. Nothing that you take will work unless you have the proper levels of electrolytes.
Okay, and then that is time. But now that you've laid all of this foundation,
yes,
next time we would be all peptides.
Yeah, and can I just give the people why we're going to talk about peptides and how we're going to talk about peptides?
And also let people know where they can find out about you guys, your work, your business, etc.
medicalhealthinstitute.com, and you can call us, and whoever picks up the phone is going to be a qualified coach that they've heard this for years.
Oh no, they hear it every single week. And you better get with you sink or swim in our company. You sink or swim in our company.
So,
you can also follow our podcast, which is Beyond Biohacking Brothers, and if you do sign up for any reason, in case you like what we said, please use Mythos Media when you call. Make sure you say Mythos Media so you can
just give it my last name. Basically,
just say Robert Brila.
We'll teach our team Robert Brila, but whatever, you'll get a discount to get started if you decide go down that route.
And just for the average watcher, because look, we could do, and we talked to Robert before doing the show. Like we can sit here and tell you what each peptide does, but you can find that online anywhere. You could go to ChatGPT and I'll explain it to you. So what we would want to do as for your viewers is
leave the preview.
Is to teach you how to use peptides like a pro. If you're thinking, I want the Glow and the Wolverine stack and I want this and that, and like I was so sick and tired of these stupid marketing terms. This is not science. Don't buy the train, buy the science. So if you're buying a product it's like, I want CGC so I can make more muscle and burn more fat, you've missed the entire point. You're a consumer. This is how consumers think of these products. When you look at scientists and pros, we don't think of these products this way, right? We think about what they do for our systems. So just to give you a kind of preview, like for example, let's take a very popular peptide like the CJC, ipamorelin, growth hormone stimulant. Well, why would you want to do that? Well, so when every human on Earth from the ages of, every human on Earth between 8 o'clock at night and 4 o'clock in the morning, that's when we get the largest pulse of growth hormone. You know, from an ancestor living perspective, we were asleep, growth hormone came in, master hormone, grew things, repaired things, all these things. Beautiful thing. So before you turn 30, that peak, the amplitude of that peak is like Mount Everest. By the time you're 30, it looks more like Tennessee Hill. By the time you're 50, it looks more like a wave in the ocean, right? So
Bubble.
Why? And to give you kind of an analogy, that's because your pituitary is going from grape to raisin. Just like, why do you work out muscles? Because if you don't, they atrophy. Same thing happens for a lot of these glands. So your pituitary also atrophies.
They begin to collapse.
Right, they begin to collapse. So from that perspective, when you're thinking about longevity, does it make sense to do a product like CJC so we can flex the pituitary's muscle, reminded what it's supposed to do, and benefit from the amplitude of the pulse that we used to get when we were young? The answer is absolutely yes. But a ton of different things happen this way. Thymosin alpha-1, right? Which controls your immune system. So literally after 50, the thymosin
15 starts to involute, starts to shrink.
it starts to shrink like raisin, like grape to raisin.
Yeah.
And so that's why older people are immunologically compromised. So is immunologically, like having your immunological response strong, is it a valuable thing for longevity? Absolutely. So does it make sense to do cycles throughout the year, at least once a year, of thymosin alpha-1 to remind the thymus gland what to do? Absolutely. But that happens with everything.
Yes.
Brain.
Okay. Let's drop it here before we actually don't make dinner. I like how you put it that, you know, the body does move in cycles and rhythms. Like we are a vibrational structure, right? And so when we get into the peptides next time, it's like you're tweaking that basically, right? You're sending different vibrations, different signals through the structure. But if you don't have the structural things in place first, what's the point?
It rattles and falls apart.
Yeah. Okay, guys, this was awesome.
Sorry that we still haven't answered your first question.
This is great. We'll do it again.
3 hours later.
Let's go, baby.
Yes.
See you next one.
We have infinite airtime here. So. All right, let's go eat.
Let's
Thank
go.
you. Peace.
We lock our doors, we encrypt our hard drives, and we use strong passwords. But most people leave one thing wide open: their phone line. SIM swap attacks are one of the fastest growing methods of digital theft. In minutes, a hacker can clone your accounts, reset your passwords, and drain your life. Unfortunately, this is not science fiction. It happens every single day. Efani is the only mobile service protection designed exclusively to protect you from SIM swap attacks. Efani offers military-grade encryption on their product and offers up to $5 million of SIM swap insurance. And to date, there have been exactly 0 SIM swaps on any of Efani's over 50,000 protected accounts. So you don't need to live in fear, you just need to protect your weakest link. Go to Efani.com/breedlove to secure your phone line today. Again, that's Efani, EFANI.com/breedlove. For the past 25 years, I've been reading roughly 1 book per week. Almost entirely difficult nonfiction books, the kind that really shift your thinking. Books on physics, money, power, psychology, spirituality, and philosophy. The real stuff. But I get it. Most people don't have time to read 50 books per year. So I hand-selected my favorite nonfiction books and distilled each one of them into a course that you can take in 50 to 100 times faster than it would take you to read the entire book. Each course gives you the key insights, mental models, and frameworks that matter. We launched with 15 book courses, and we are building toward a library of 100 by the end of year 1. So if you are a seeker of truth, wisdom, and personal growth, then my book course is for you. To sign up, go to course.breedlove.io. Again, that's course.breedlove.io. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money. And be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.